Hello, Muppet Moment fans. Happy Pride Month. Congratulations if you are watching and indeed listening. You are gay now. If you weren't
Woo!
already, congratulations on coming out. We're so proud of you. We love you and we support you in whatever kind of gay you are. But if you weren't before listening to this, you are now, and that's a scientific fact. So you're welcome for that. Welcome back to another episode of a Muppet Moment. As usual, I am Will Updates.
I am Muppets Max, the other host. As Will said, you are contractually obligated into being gay. It's Pride Month. When you watch this video, you have signed up to being gay. That's part of our bylaws. That's part of the algorithm, part of all of that. Welcome to gayness, people. Welcome to Muppet Moment.
We're very lucky to have you. We're very grateful to have you. And we are also very lucky and grateful to have our guest for this episode. Would you like to introduce yourself to us?
Hi, I'm Becca, Muppetbecca, and I know a lot about gay Muppets. So,
Thank you
Yes,
so
yeah.
much
Becca.
for
One of the reasons we wanted to have Becca on the podcast is because Becca wrote an incredible article all about
Thank you.
queerness and the Muppets, a fantastic analysis. So we were like, who is better to discuss the queer ass Muppets than the person who literally wrote an article all about it?
I'm
Thank
glad
you.
that you brought it up because I actually wanted that to be sort of like our opening thing because
Hmm.
due to the nature of this, we are going to be referencing this one particular Substack article a lot. So, Becca, would you like to give us a really quick plug so that the people can
Yeah.
stop listening, go and read the whole thing, and then
Read
come
that
back and
shit.
listen to the rest of this?
Yeah, so on Substack, I am at Saturn Sappho. So Saturn like the planet and then Sappho like the poet. You can scroll down through my account back to like October. I published this article for Queer and Trans History Month last year. It's called The Rainbow Connection. It is very long, but in it, I go over like early Muppet history, early Sesame Street, mid-Muppet history, original Fraggle Rock. We have a little 90s interlude, and then I do like modern Sesame Street, modern Muppets, modern Fraggles, wrap it all up. And I just talk about all of the gay things that have happened in the Muppets from literally the 1950s to 2025, 2026. So, and there's a lot. They've been doing this. They've been being gay since Sam and Friends. So,
It's
They've been gay for a fucking minute.
been gay
Muppets
for a
have
while.
become almost inseparable from queer
Hmm.
culture within America. And I'm so excited to get into all of the details about this article, about your perspective on Muppets and queerness. This is great, y'all. Look at all these gay Muppet fans all together talking about gay Muppets.
It's
Yeah.
always a joy to be talking about Game Muppets. We kind of like to do it unprompted. We have sort of talked in bits here and there about sort of like our connection between Muppets and queerness and our sort of like perceived connection between the Muppets and queerness. Even down to, I want to say it was our third episode, which was
Yeah,
our
Haunted
Halloween
Mansion.
special featuring Mikey Tears for Fears, friend of half the pod and boyfriend of the other half. And we kind of went on a bit of a long tangent because we were talking about Gonzo. And like obviously to Muppet fans, Gonzo is somebody that is very like heavily associated with queerness. To, in my opinion, to the right Muppet fans, that is Gonzo's association. You can think whatever you want about Gonzo, but like there is an increasingly like strong connection between Gonzo and queerness, specifically for like trans and non-binary people. And I
We
think that like kind of the opening of that chest has sort of been like it's prompted some really interesting discussions among Muppet fans, and that's the kind of discussions that I'm really excited to be having with you guys today.
Oh my God. I mean, the whole reason I love doing this podcast is because we get on here and we're not just going like, I like this Muppet thing good, this Muppet thing bad. We're like, there are gay Muppets. There are Muppets that have influenced queerness. We got to get into all the queer shit. And before we kind of get into the vast depth of Muppet queerness that we're going to go into, I want to ask both of you, how's your Pride Month going?
Great. I helped out at a teen pride event the other day at my library. It was so
Hell
nice.
yeah.
Love the little gay teens. They're so happy. Like they're doing so well. So it's been
I'm
great.
so glad to hear that.
Yeah.
Will, how's your Pride Month been?
To be honest, it's been kind of low key. I actually missed Edinburgh Pride because I was at work. So I'm feeling pretty sort of besmirched about that. I wasn't super stoked about that. I am making plans to go to Glasgow Pride, even though it is like in July. It's gonna be my first like Pride
Yeah, that's
event that I've attended. But I'm carrying it with me. I'm wearing my little Miss Piggy Pride snap bracelet today. Again, another treat for the visual viewers. Oh my goodness. Wait. His
gay
little
Ernie.
gay Ernie. It's true, it's
Oh my
canon.
God. We have gay Ernie, and
We
then
have
we
gay
have
Ernie on the
Janice
couch.
over here.
Gay Janice?
They're calling it the gayest assortment of plushes in history.
Listen,
Um,
listen.
but no, yeah, I like Pride Month because it's sort of like obviously like 90% of the people I know are like weird queers, which I love. But this month it's just kind of it's a nice sort of spotlight, I guess, to be able to talk about these things in a sort of, I guess, in this political climate, like not only in the States but like over here as well. It's kind of creeping into Scotland. It's
Damn.
sort of it's weird to think about queerness as something that's not like as publicly celebrated as it maybe was in sort of like years prior, which is why I always love to sort of get on like a public platform and talk about it in formats like this.
100%. Yeah, I speaking to that very clearly here. I've mentioned a million times I live in Seattle. I've got my cunty Mariners hat on, my cunty sparkly Mariners hat. Seattle is by population. I don't know the exact statistic, but population wise, the largest amount of trans people that live in one place. Like Seattle is the transest place in the country. But even a place like Seattle, which has open transness every single day, has like hundreds upon thousands of trans people walking around daily. We have even felt the discrimination, the attacks, the fucking anti-trans sentiment that is growing across the world. We felt that even in a place as progressive as this. I think Will brings up a very good point that having a long form discussion, having a platform where we can openly talk about queerness is important. Like just outwardly talking about our experiences, media that we like that is involved with queerness is important to show representation, to show that like queerness has always existed, even within these like big like cultural things. So I'm very fucking hyped today. This is gonna be a great episode, y'all.
I am very excited to get into it. And I think in the spirit of it, I think if Becca, if there's any sort of starting notes that you'd like to get us off with to kick off the
Yeah.
discussion, the floor is yours.
I think we should start with the beginning, which is Sam and Friends and the commercials that Jim Henson did back in the 50s. He only had like a couple puppets at this point, and it was also pretty much just him and Jane Henson working the puppets together. And most of the puppets were either like explicitly male or ambiguous,
Hmm.
and there were no girl puppets. You know how it is.
Uh,
So when they needed a girl puppet, usually what they did is they would take out Kermit, they would give him a dress, and they would give him a wig, and Jane would puppeteer him. And there you have it, Kermit in drag. Um,
the very first like drag puppet.
Very
I'll be the
first.
first drag Muppet, but like wow.
Yeah. He references it in the 2006 edition of his memoir. It did get edited out of the 2025 edition of the
I
memoir.
I'm so
Bruh.
glad that you said that because my
Yeah.
friend Kit bought me a copy of like I think it was the 2005 or 6 version
Hmm.
of Kermit's book and was like reading through it and like found in like the beginning of the book like the paragraphs about drag and I was like, "Oh, I
Hmm.
didn't know that was in there." I have a
Yeah.
copy of the 25 re-release,
Yeah.
tried to find it in there and couldn't and I was like,
I
"Damn,
have both. So
is
that's
he
how I found it.
ashamed? Is
Yeah.
he ashamed or
So
is Disney silencing him?" Who's
I have it here. So he says, like, to beat the tabloids at their own game, here's the headline. Kermit Shocker, I worked in drag. Yep, long before Mrs. Doubtfire, Tootsie, and Some Like It Hot, I donned a wig and played the female role during that performance and in other sketches. Men have been doing that sort of thing since Shakespeare's time, though I may have been the first amphibian to switch genders for a shot at the big time. From Kermit's own mouth,
I like the way that
Right from the frog's mouth,
right
y'all.
from the frog.
he's being like coy about it and he's like, "No, no, no, it's like a thespian thing, guy."
Yeah. It's
No,
like
no, no, I'm just really into acting.
he's like before the gossip tabloids get a hand, like I gotta get ahead of the tabloids.
I
Like,
I like
He's
the
like,
idea that
yes,
he's like he's like
I
covering
did
his
drag.
bases.
Yeah.
He's covering his bases, but honestly, like you can't tell me. Like I've seen like the recordings of that old Black Magic. He was feeling
Hmm.
himself. He was
Oh, he
enjoying
was.
himself. He made like
100%.
listen. He's a little bit too corporate now. He's putting that out of his book, and he's kind of being like, "Hey guys,
He hasn't done drag in 5 years.
there's."
Guys,
Last time was Haunted Mansion.
you guys know how
Oh my God!
like
Wait, yes, I forgot
Yeah.
about that. Oh my God, it's returning
you
to
guys know how
history.
like JD Vance and a bunch of Republican senators and shit have been exposed for doing drag in like their frat houses and their youth and shit. It's and then they always deny it and they're like, no, 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 I was just doing
Oh,
it for like a performance or whatever.
no.
Like this just seems to be a thing with so many cis straight men where they do drag in their past and then they have to do all these justifications where it's like you can just fucking do drag and not have
Fine.
to be embarrassed by it. Like Kermit, love you, man. You can just say you did drag without
It's
having to
fine.
cover all these bases.
It's
My
cool.
I
Yeah.
think there's like two really strong readings of Kermit from this. He's either one of those like kind of those cis guys who like did drag and enjoyed it a little bit too much, so he feels the need to overcompensate and say that he like didn't enjoy it. It's either that or he's one of those trans guys that like goes 110% for drag. Um and yeah, I feel like either one of those readings is really strong because I see a lot of trans mask
Yeah.
Kermit headcanons and I'm like, you know what?
Yeah.
I see
Kermit
it.
and
There's
Piggy are
there's
very T for T.
there's
They're very T for T,
exactly.
Kevin.
I was gonna
Like
say
Yeah.
unreasonably T for T.
there's a flavor there. There's a quality. I care about them too much as a straight couple for there to not be something queer about them.
Something.
If
Exactly.
Something's
Piggy and
happening.
Kermit were just a straight couple, I don't think we as queer people would be as attached to the Kermiggy
No.
relationship.
It's the same with Gonzo and Camilla, I think. Like
Hmm.
they're both non-binarying it up.
Yeah. He,
I,
they, she,
I
they.
exactly.
Yeah.
I
They're
think
they're
that
exchanging.
the Kermina drag stuff, I think like it would have been very easy for Jim Henson to just be like yeah, I threw Kermit in a wig or whatever. But the fact that like the Muppet performers, the people have been involved with Henson for a long time, even gave such an explanation and had Kermit the Frog say all these things about like yeah, you know, I did drag in the past. I was the first amphibian to do it. I don't know. I think that also just speaks to the Henson Company and the Hensons in general always being like cool with queerness and shit, where they didn't just downplay it 100%. They let kind of Kermit have his moment to be like, I did drag.
It's one of those things where like I feel like the book does a really good job of like humanizing him and just kind of
Hmm.
like the thing that I feel about Muppets is that they're really at their best when they're not kind of like being a heightened version of themselves, I guess. I like when we sort of like get to see a little bit of sort of like their humanity and their sort of down to earthness. And I think having like an autobiography and having him talk about it like that is kind of like and I think the removal of it is kind of symptomatic of maybe like a little bit of like sanitizing of the Muppets that's been happening in recent years.
Which is
That's
insane
not the discussion we
because
were having here. We're doing the hot takes episode next.
Listen.
But
Yeah.
but yeah, I think just like the fact that they were so like unabashed about just like talking about it in the original book and like obviously doing it in like literally the 50s. It's
Yeah.
like, yeah, I think it's kind of symptomatic of how this has always been baked into the Muppets in one way, shape, or form.
I
And I
do
think
want to make a quick point. I think the Hensons are a really great example of how they didn't let the societal standards of how men and women act like influence the rest of their projects. There's such a history within theater of women not getting to perform and men doing these performances as women, not as like a representation of queerness, but as a denial of women in theater spaces. And the fact that the Hensons, you know, they did Kermit and drag and then still had major representation for women throughout. They
Mhm.
still did all these things representing, you know, it does not seem to me like Kermit is a douchebag theater guy not letting women on stage. It's like it really just feels like Henson didn't have any girl puppets yet, and then they made some woman puppets later.
Yeah.
Like you know, I have less anger or vitriol towards the Hensons for something like this than most men taking roles from women at the time.
I mean, most of the early puppeteering, it was kind of just like Jim and Jane messing around
Mhm.
and just like getting so character. And I think just that sort of expression and that joy has been in some way, shape, or form like carried throughout the entire lineage of the Muppets. So I think it's not like surprising for something like that to be so present so early on. What I do like though, and it's kind of like I think it's like we can at this point call it a copy pasta because it's the kind of thing that gets like snatched for a hit tweet every 7 months or so. But like the idea of the Muppets essentially being just kind of like drag personas,
Yeah.
something interesting that gets brought up every now and again. And I kind of feel like it is most prominent with one particular performer and one particular character. And I feel like it kind of goes without saying. If we were to do like a one, two, three, we'd all say it at the same time.
Fill the
But
bubble guy.
exactly, Dave Goelz putting his whole
Exactly.
Build the Bubble Guy.
Of course.
It goes without saying, iconic, this diva.
Yeah.
But no, I feel like there's like obviously it's sort of it is play and it is puppeteering and it is sort of like taking on roles because there's like a million different kind of characters that you can like just like note as like like I don't think they were like LARPing Scottish people when they did like Angus McGonagall. They were it was just like it's a silly sort of like heightened character. But there is something so beautiful about sort of like the tenderness and like the humanity and like depth with which Frank Oz portrayed Miss Piggy in his
Yes.
Muppets.
Hmm.
Okay, if we're already getting into Miss Piggy discussion this early into the podcast, I got a lot of shit to say about Piggy.
It was gonna happen at some point. I just thought I would rip
Yeah.
the Band-Aid off because you can't really have an episode talking about like gay shit in the
Yeah.
Muppet and not mentioning Miss Piggy. Like, come on.
Yeah, especially if we're going from drag, it's basically drag, Miss Piggy
Piggy.
Yeah, it's the through
immediately. Yeah.
I mean, I would make the argument that Miss Piggy is the most successful drag queen in human history. Like,
Hmm.
I think the performances that Frank Oz gave, the earnestness to it, there was never, like, obviously Piggy has been the butt of so many jokes. Piggy has been the punchline of a million different things. But there was an earnestness in which Frank Oz performed Piggy. He really became that role, the same way that Jim really became Kermit and that they were so, so, so tied to each other. Frank really, really became Piggy. And the backstory he gave Piggy about her being like in competitions to support herself, beauty competitions after running away from like an abusive home life and shit. It speaks so much to how real life drag queens had to run away from home and they ended up in places like New York and major cities and had to vogue and do drag to support themselves. That is like the quite literal journey of so many drag queens.
It's the kind of thing where it's like you hear so many stories about how Frank was working on like Muppet projects, and like the reason that like and we'll come back to them later. Obviously, we'll come back to them later. But like the reason that Bert and Ernie worked so well was because they were kind of extensions of Jim and Frank. Because Frank was
Yeah.
like very intense. He took the performing very seriously, and he was often kind of like a little bit grumpy, and sort of and not like the most sort of like outgoing sociable person in the world. But and it's like the way that he took playing this like this diva pig like 100% seriously, it's kind of emblematic of the fact that like she kind of in some way, shape, or form had to be like Frank had to have put something of himself in there. And this isn't me like I want to cover my bases. This isn't me like making real life speculations about like actual human beings.
Frank's gay and is a drag queen?
No, I'm saying that if he yes he is a drag queen, but I don't think he knew that he was doing it. Um,
No.
Yes.
it's the kind of thing where it's like there is such like a genuine like warmth and like heart in which the way that he plays Piggy because it's like yes she's like a heightened character and yes she's like oftentimes like used for sort of like comedic purposes, but like something I saw very recently that kind of really broke my heart is the way that some like real life celebrities and like talk show hosts like treated Miss Piggy.
Larry King, you're dead to me, buddy.
It was the way that Larry King treated her.
Interrogating her.
Literally for what? For being a woman? Come
Dude,
on.
that
For being
edit
a
makes me
woman.
cry.
Genuinely.
Why are we transvestigating fucking Piggy right now, y'all? What the fuck?
It's
Yeah.
so like it's genuinely like heartbreaking. And you could tell that this was like a direction that Frank wanted to take her. Because if it was like, oh haha, we're doing like silly talk show patter, then it would have just been like, oh, Piggy gets combatant and like karate chops Larry King or something. But no, he genuinely got so swept up in that character.
Hmm.
Like he's kin shifting. He's
Yeah.
like Piggy no doubles, and I am
Yeah.
her, she is me. Like Yeah, obviously we can sort of like we can talk about it in this sort of like Tumblr copy pasta way of the fact that like Piggy is a drag persona, but I legitimately think there's genuine arguments to be made for that. Like,
I want to a point that has struck to me in you talking about that is like will fully come to the forefront of my brain is that interview with Larry King. Piggy is crying. Piggy is like earnestly talking about her life, earnestly making like the case for herself and not and, like this argument that she doesn't have to justify her own life to this man. It to me speaks so hard to how drag queens, trans people, oppressed queer people throughout century generations of queer people have had to use like this fabulous persona, having to use fabulousness as a means of protection. Piggy is a perfect representation of how that fabulousness and that fucking joy that she has, that is a means of protection and safety. And that is outlined so clearly in the interview where she had to do these fucking these beauty queen fucking competitions and shit to survive in the same way that these drag queens and shit had to do in New York with ballroom and all of that. Like I think Piggy, even if Frank Oz wasn't necessarily going about Piggy to be like, I'm trying to represent queer people who are like on the streets in New York, within fucking all of that. I think the influences of people like Richard Hunt and Sesame Street writers and all these people who were queer in New York while they were doing Muppet projects absolutely influenced Frank Oz and how he was performing Piggy. I think it would be insane if none of that outside influence ever like seeped into like Frank Oz. I think that yeah, to Will and Becca's point, I think that Frank Oz absolutely embraced Piggy in the drag way that we're talking about beyond just like Tumblr buzzwords.
Yeah, I saw someone say like a while ago, like maybe on Twitter or something, but they were like, I miss when Miss Piggy was poor.
Oh
She had
my
so
God,
much
yes.
more personality because now she's just like rich. And I'm like, can we like take away her money? Like for the
Now
Miss
she's a
Piggy movie, can we make
capitalist.
her poor? Um,
I will say, and agree. Like, I fully agree with you, Becca, with
yeah.
this point being brought up. I think this also speaks to how like queens get money and then like turn away, don't look back
Mhm.
on like their community and shit. Like, I think you know, uh, Pose season 4 or whatever has a really good representation of that about all of the drag mothers and shit who used to be in the ballroom scene are now these like successful people within these businesses and how it's pulled them away from the conditions that are affecting oppressed people. And like, I don't know, as Piggy has gotten richer, I've seen less of her talking about gay people. I think now when she's involved in like gay shit, it's more of a capitalist lens. We can get into that as we get it further in, but I agree with you is what I'm trying to
Yeah.
say.
And then like one circling back to like what Will said about like not saying Frank Oz was gay, but he actually like got like people were calling him gay like in the 80s, 70s and 80s when Piggy became like a big phenomenon. He would get interviewed and they'd be like, "So you're playing a woman.
Are you gay?
Are you gay?"
You
And
fucking
there's
gay,
one
dog?
quote where he's like, "Let's get it straight. I'm straight." He's like, "I can be a diva
yeah,
with a pig and be a straight man." Um, so I think it was interesting that like even in the 70s, they were like, you're being a little too gay about that pig. Like,
Hey man, we like the pig, but you're acting pretty fucking gay.
yeah, like what are you talking about? And other people like
it's
didn't even know that it was a man. Like they would get to the table readings and he would start doing the voice and they were like, "What's happening?
Wait a
Who are
second, how
you?"
am I supposed to be
Yeah,
turned on
well,
by this pig if it's a man
if it's a
playing it?
man.
I have sexy time brain for this pig. Why the fuck is he admitted a man?
that's always been a skill issue, in my opinion. Like, come on, just commit. But
Yeah.
it's the kind of thing where, like, obviously, we've made these speculations and these kind of things. I feel like the way that in which we're doing it is definitely coming from a lot more. I mean, clearly a lot more of a sort of affectionate lens, because it's the kind of thing we're not sort of being like, oh yeah, this is the podcast where we like out Frank Oz, because that's absolutely not what this is. We're not here to make speculations on real life people, and we're not even here to say that like every single reading that we have about the Muppets is definitely absolutely what every single creative intended, and we're speaking on behalf of everybody living or dead, that this is exactly what their work represents. But the kind of the thing that I've really enjoyed, and I think Max mentioned it, the thing that I love about doing this podcast and speaking with other like Muppet fans and other queer Muppet fans is the fact that like I feel like our enjoyment of Muppet stuff goes a bit further beyond just like, do you remember when Ernie sang about the moon? I enjoyed. Do you remember when Kermit sang about a rainbow? I enjoyed that. We kind of we like to get a little bit more analytical. We like to, and that's what I think is exciting me the most about like about having planned this episode and actually getting to do it. Because like we can speculate all day long, and at the end of the day this is all just speculation, but being able to like connect these threads and like find these readings and take this additional maybe not intended meaning from this like nearly like 70 years worth of text now, it's like a beautiful thing, and I love like talking and thinking critically with other like fans of Muppet media for a media that has become so like baked into capitalism now that it's like owned by Disney. I love finding like new and interesting ways to look at this stuff that we love. And that's why I loved reading Becca's Substack so much because it's genuinely, we're not just here to be like, oh yeah, go read the article because Becca's our friend. It genuinely was such a fascinating read. I read it over the course of me being like in an airport and like going on a flight and stuff. I had like my headphones ready to listen to music for the whole, it was like a 2 hour flight. And I just sat and read the whole Substack start to finish.
Thank you.
So like it is really something to like sink your teeth into if you are a fan of like media analysis and critical thinking. So like this is all to say like all of these takes that we're having are kind of just like they are a reading of. We're not here to say this is definitely true and this is definitely not true. Um
Well, I think that in regard to that, like, I mean, I agree fully. Becca's article. I mean, we could have had a lot of fucking queer people on this episode. We know a lot of gay Muppet fans, but we were specific in bringing someone who has done some really fantastic analysis on this. But in the point that you're making about like we are making these connections as people who have read a lot of Henson work, who have watched a lot of Henson stuff, who are queer, and of course are going about it with some sort of bias. I think our biases, our queerness in regards to the Muppets, has been like fully confirmed throughout like the run and like generations. Like 2011, when they were marketing the fucking 2011 Muppets movie with Miss Piggy, they took out a column in I think fucking Out
Out
magazine where it
magazine.
had Miss Piggy going her, and I quote, Miss Piggy's snout out to the gays. Where I think it is
So good.
becoming fully embraced that even if Frank Oz, like we're not fucking transvestigating Frank Oz on this podcast, like that's not happening. But I think it's pretty obvious that like Piggy has become a massive fucking piece of culture within gay culture. Like Piggy has become such a massive part of it to the point in which when they were marketing the 2011 movie, they specifically had to do it in a queer magazine and use Miss Piggy as a spokesperson for queer people to be like, hey, gay bitches, see this movie because Miss Piggy's in it.
They also had her go to a fundraiser for the Trevor Project in 2011, and she was like, "Me and Kermit support you guys. We love you." Also, in her snout out to the gays, she was like, "We love you, but Kermit is secure in his frog hood. Stay in your lane."
Frog.
He's skinny, wears a flashy neck piece, and sings Rainbow Connection, but for the last time, Kermit is secure in his frog hood.
Mm.
Oh,
Mm.
Yeah, her snout out to the gays is so funny.
Sonata to the
that
gays.
Who came up with that?
who wrote this and why
Who
was it
wrote
Frank?
this?
Um, obviously, like honestly, I will just like be out with it. My little think piece just then is just entirely to cover our bases because we don't know who the fuck's listening to this with some kind of and
You call Frank
just
Oz gay? Not on my
Frank
watch.
Oz gay?
yeah, we don't want some sort of like 50 something coming in here being like, "What do you mean the Muppets are gay?" I don't
What
know
do
why
you
I
mean?
accidentally sounded like a cousin of Sweetums. That was an accident. I think he'd love.
Gay Muppets?
I yeah, like unfortunately in this day and age, you can't really discuss the Muppets in a queer way without somebody getting like up in arms about it. So that was just kind of my legal disclaimer for this episode.
No, but to your
Yeah,
point though, it's like I think it's like the reason people are reacting like that, and the reason there's been such an increase of like homophobia of people talking about the Muppets is because they are seeing the Muppets becoming so much more like important to queer people. And a lot of queer people realizing that this is media that has represented queer people for decades. I mean, Becca's article literally goes into like by year, by era, the amount of queerness that has influenced the Muppets and that they have done specifically for fans. Like, I think this reaction of homophobia in regards to the Muppets is a response to how queer people are embracing the Muppets, which I fucking love.
It's
Yeah,
reading is jealousy and denial in a sense.
Yeah,
yeah,
bitch. Sorry, Piggy's
100%.
gay.
Yeah, when they came out, the only like backlash I was able to like really find recorded was after the Muppet Babies episode in like 2023.
Oh, the Gonzarella episode?
Gonzarella. Someone, God, like what's her name? Like that Republican Candace, whatever. She was like, we need to go back to manly Muppets.
You mean like Walter? Like,
Candace
I
Owens,
was
you don't
like,
know shit
so you
about the
know that they've
Muppets,
been doing
bitch.
drag since the 50s. What do
that's
you mean manly?
name
We've
up
had
a Muppet quickly.
Name one fucking manly Muppet.
manly
I want to
Muppet.
know because they're all, even the manly ones, quote unquote, are sweethearts. Like, you think
The only
Sweetums is
manly
a manly
one is
Muppet?
Muppet Gary. That's it.
That's very manly
That's
Muppet. Because
that's
like
the only one.
you want to talk about manly Muppets like Link Hogthrob? Do we want to pull up the clip of him singing Macho Man
Oh
against
my
Gonzo,
God.
where they're all in leather, bunch of
Yeah.
leather pigs singing Macho Man? Come on, don't fuck
I
me off.
it just goes into like the amount of times throughout history that Sesame Street, the Muppets, Muppets in general have gotten criticism from right wingers and conservatives. It just speaks to the fact that they don't fucking watch Muppets. So,
Didn't
like, they
watch
don't
it.
actually watch this media. Because even if you remove all of like the queerness that we're talking about, which I think is embedded into it and you can't remove it, but even if you hypothetically remove the queerness from it, all of Muppets is about loving humanity, accepting everyone for their differences, and celebrating those differences. You know, caring about everyone no matter what they look like. I'm like, I'm so sorry. Like, if you're upset about queerness within the Muppets, you've just never fucking watched the Muppets, or you're too stupid to fucking understand them. I'm so sorry. I'm gonna say it.
Like it's been here since day one. They were doing drag since day one. And then even if you get into like early Sesame Street, early Muppet Show, guess who was there? Gay people.
Gay people, and guess who was
Gay people.
puppeteering on this fucking shit? Gay people.
Gay people.
The Muppets wouldn't be the Muppets without gay people. And so like I listen, I made my whole thing where it's like, oh, this is all speculation. I'm retracting it. The Muppets are gay and there's nothing you can do about it. And so are
Can't
you
do anything.
as you listen to this episode. You made it this far. You're still
No, Becca brought up a really good segue here in terms of like the people who worked on the Muppets, the people who were involved on Muppet Show guests. There was a lot of queer people. I think it's time for us to have a
I
little
got
bit of
her.
Bible study on the podcast. Do you guys want to pull out your Bibles real quick?
Yeah, I
We're
do.
gonna
I
have a
think
very
I'm really ready
heavy
to
Bible
pull out my
study.
Bible.
pull up my
You guys got your Bibles? Will, do
Pull my
you have your
Bible.
Bible?
Yep.
That's a thumbnail and a half right there.
Yeah.
Right. We have all, either finished reading Funny Boy or we're getting very close to reading Funny
Very
Boy by
close.
Jessica Max Stein, an
Yeah.
incredible, incredible analysis and historical window into the life and legacy of Richard Hunt, openly queer puppeteer who worked on the Muppets, a famous puppeteer for fucking Janice and Scooter and so many other big Muppets within the whole plethora of Muppet Run. We bring up Richard Hunt to emphasize that by being an openly queer person, by being an openly gay man, specifically in the 70s in New York City, where there was this revival of queer renaissance, pre-Stonewall, and going into Stonewall and such, there was outward queer lives happening in major cities across the US because of the mass expulsion of queer people from their homes. Richard Hunt was at the epicenter of all of that, being an out gay person within New York City. And we can get into it right here on the podcast. Richard's influence within the Muppet Show's entire run, within the entirety of the plethora of the Muppets, you cannot deny queerness within the Muppets if you, one, read this book, or two, even fucking research a lick of what Richard Hunt contributed. And so I'm excited for us to get our Bibles out and talk about the Saint Richard Hunt.
Yeah. So I guess just like an overview for those who aren't super familiar, don't have all of the performers, characters memorized in their heads like we probably do. Um, Richard started on Sesame Street. My fun fact is that Sesame Street started the same year as Stonewall. Richard started, I want to say, like 3 years into Sesame Street. He started like 72 or something. And
Yeah.
his first major role was the back half of Snuffleupagus.
Hell
Let's
yeah.
go.
My goat right there.
Um,
That's my goat.
that's
What
my favorite character.
was
He would be the bottom half.
He
Ugh.
would be the bottom half. He worked his way up. He got some speaking characters. He got Gladys the cow, a diva. He got Forgetful Jones. He had a couple others on Sesame Street,
he
but
was
none of
also
those were like
was he not
stuck.
the original Elmo?
He was the original Elmo,
Hey,
but
I'm
he hated
fucking
it.
Elmo.
I know.
He did like a deep voice for it, and he was like, I don't like this character. So famously, he was like, I'm sick of this, and he threw it across the room to Kevin Clash, who picked it up and became the Elmo that we all
Oh my,
know
that's
Kevin
today.
Clash,
that's
also
about
openly gay puppeteer.
oh
Yeah.
my God.
Um,
Since you're Evo tapping my head right now. That's a
yeah.
moment for the biopic right there. That's a
hmm
really dramatic like
Yeah, that's the like trailer moment.
yeah, the
Yeah, they
It's
toss him
thrown.
Elmo across the room, and then it fades to black.
Yeah.
Richard Hunt, gay puppeteer.
If you're
Yeah.
like Daily Wire article, like a 3-year-old child gets thrown around the room by two gay men. Um,
Yeah. 3.5-year-old.
perpetual.
But yeah. So his Sesame Street characters, I will say, never really took off the way that other Sesame Street characters have. I think maybe one or two of them are still milling around, but it's not like Bert, Ernie,
Yeah.
Elmo, Cookie Monster.
Gladys
But
deserves her
his
flowers. It's bullshit Gladys
yeah,
isn't more popular.
Gladys is amazing. But his Muppet characters is where he's really come to stick. He is Scooter. I think Scooter's his number one because he is Scooter. He
Yes.
is Janice. He is Beaker. He is Statler. More. He's Sweetums. Um,
Look,
the
like
list goes on. He's so many one-offs. Name
Sweetums
of the
I think
Pigeons.
is my favorite Richard character. It must be said.
Yeah. Um, and like I think his characters have had some of the like longest, like biggest impact from the Muppets. And my proof for this is I will ask people who like don't really know much about the Muppets. Like they're just like, oh, like I watched like one or two of the movies when I was a kid. I'll be like, what's your favorite Muppet? And very often I will get Beaker or I will get the old guys for in the balcony.
Exactly.
Yes.
It's always been
That's Richard.
balcony.
I also
That's
want to
Richard.
say, Richard, they did when Jim Henson presented at the Oscars. Obviously, they did like a whole Statler and Waldorf bit. It was very easy for them to do that. But I think it speaks to Richard's influence and impact on the Muppets that he didn't have Frank Oz with him at the Oscars. He didn't have Jerry Nelson. Like they could have easily done a Miss Piggy
Yeah.
and Kermit thing. The fact
Piggy,
that it
Gonzo.
was Kermit and Scooter, Statler and Waldorf,
hmm
Richard Hunt got to be on the biggest stage in the world. Like I think what people don't realize about Richard is the Muppets were the biggest thing on television. They were the most watched
hmm
thing in the world. A queer person out in New York City was one of the core members of this cast. Like that influence across the world, like you cannot speak about the Muppets' impact on the world without, well, you can't do that with removing Richard Hunt because Richard Hunt was one of the most important Muppeteers, Muppet performers in the entire plethora of the Muppets.
One of Richard's biggest characters, I would argue, is Janice. She's had like a really big effect. She's just kind of iconic. She's the laid back California hippie girl. Everybody loves her. She's chilling. Um, and a lot of people, I know, like me included, before I did more research, kind of assumed that, like, okay, Richard's gay. He has a bunch of female characters like Janice, like Gladys the cow. He also used to be Miss Piggy briefly for like the first 10-ish episodes of The Muppet Show. He and Frank Oz shared Piggy before Frank Oz was like, hey, I think I've kind of like, I've got her. Can I take her? And Richard was like, please, because he actually didn't really identify with the female roles. Like he got asked about it in an interview later in life, and he was like, I'm not doing the female roles because I'm gay. Like I'm an actor playing a character, and I'm a guy who happens to like other guys. Like it's chill. Another big character as we move through Sesame Street, through the Muppets, onto our next big of our big three is Fraggle Rock. Richard Hunt was huge in Fraggle Rock. He basically was kind of like a wrangler for all the performers. He liked to mentor the younger performers coming onto the show. He would help out the directors who had never directed puppets before because it's completely different. And sometimes they would be giving like lines to the people in the Gork suit about line delivery when he should have been talking to the people over at the table who were doing the radio controls and the voices. So on Fraggle Rock, Richard's two main characters were Junior Gorg. So he did radio control the face and he did the voice, while another puppeteer did the suit. And he also played Philo or Gunge. I knew at one point, I've kind of forgotten. Philo and Gunge are the little like rat creatures at the trash heap. And
I
so he
love
played
them
one of them,
so
Dave Goles
much.
played the other. Listen, I know which one is Statler and which one is Waldorf, but I don't know which one is Philo and which one is
Trying to
Gunge.
tell me I don't know who the fuck is Grudge and who's Guggle. I don't know who the fuck
Like,
they are.
Yeah, they're just kind of like
yeah,
two little assholes, essentially. They're kind of
Two
an
pretty.
eye.
droop-shaped Muppets. I love
Yeah.
a suited Muppet.
I want to say, because one is kind of pinkish and one is kind of brownish, I want to say that Richard played the brownish one, because I think at some point I was like, Sweetums, Philo or Gunge. I don't
There's
remember
gonna
which
be
one.
some fucking
Someone's
Philo
gonna get
Grudge
mad at me.
diehard in the comments being
Yeah.
like, what are you talking about?
It's so because
Guys,
I probably knew like 2 months ago because I was working on like a different Fraggle Rock thing that I never finished, and I'm like, ooh, I forgot. Um, but
we're gonna keep
yeah,
LARPing, guys. It's over for us.
sorry. I Fraggle
Oh, we
Rock
gotta go.
badge got taken away. Um, but
Why do we even get you on here if you don't know the difference between
Yeah, we don't know
the
the difference
I
between
know,
Guggle and
guys, hold on. Let me just pull up
Fraggle.
the Muppet Wiki. Um, so those are his two big characters on Fraggle Rock, but Fraggle Rock would also have a ton of random one-off characters like throughout the episodes, and a lot of times that character was Richard Hunt. There was one really good one where he played this like drag queen-esque genie. But
Yes.
the second, because sometimes I would be like, I wonder if that's Richard Hunt. With that one, the second it pulled up, I was like, that's Richard Hunt. Immediate.
Clearly, this is not bitch.
Immediate. Nobody else they would have gotten to play that. But my personal favorite is an episode called Gone But Not Forgotten, in which Wembley, he's exploring the rock, he's hanging out. He gets caught in like a rock slide or something. He gets into a cave he's never been into before, and he finds this creature called a mud bunny. And he and the mud bunny become immediate friends. They get along really well, and Wembley's like, "This is like my new bestie. Like we're gonna play every single day." And they have so much fun that they fall asleep playing. Like they played themselves to sleep. And when Wembley wakes up, he's like, "Great, round two, we're gonna keep playing." And the mud bunny is like, "Get out of my house. We're not friends. Get out of my house." And Wembley's like, "The fuck? What do you like? No, like we were just best friends." And the Mud Bunny's like, "I don't want to be your friend. Go away. Get out of my house."
Get the
Um,
fuck out.
get out. So Wembley at the time was played by Steve Whitmire, and the Mud Bunny was played by Richard Hunt. This episode was recorded shortly after Richard Hunt lost his long-term partner to AIDS. And he would shortly after, I think, wrapping Fraggle Rock, he would also find out that he was HIV positive. Um, so that take that information as we keep going through the episode. But basically, Wembley, he tells all his friends, he's like, "I don't know what happened. Like, I thought we were besties. I thought like this was my new, we played so well together." And all the other Fraggles are like, "Well, like, that's not fair. Like, you need to go back and ask him what his problem is, basically." So he goes back and he's like, "What's your problem?" And the Mud Bunny like tries not to, but he finally like relents. And he's like, "Listen, people of my species don't know when they're going to die. It can be sudden, it can be soon, and I don't want to make people sad when I leave them behind." And as he's doing this, he's making this like big mud stew and it's like bubbling, and he's basically making it into this big like grave for himself. And then when he's done talking to Wembley, he lays down in the grave and he dies. And Wembley does not know what's happening. He does not know what's going on. He freaks out. He goes back to Fraggle Rock and like none of his friends can really console him. They don't really know what's going on. Like, because they don't like I think they have death in Fraggle Rock, but like not really. It's kind of a utopia. So eventually he talks to Gobo, and Gobo is like, "Well, when my pet, like, bug died, I kept like a little stone that reminded me of him, and like having that memento, like, helped me carry him with me, like, throughout my life." And he was like, "It doesn't have to be a physical thing, but it can be like a memory or something else." And so Wembley goes back to the Mud Bunny's cave to see, like, maybe there's like a pebble or like a flower. He brings some flowers to lay on the mud shell where the mud bunny was. And as he's doing that, this new lizard creature basically breaks out of the shell. And at first, Wembley's like, is my friend back? Was this like a butterfly thing? Like, what's going on? But it turns out the lizard is something different, but he still sings the same song that the Mud Bunny was singing when Wembley first got to the cave. So he's like, I don't have the memories, but he has a little bit of the Mud Bunny in him. So the episode was written just to like help kids talk about grief, help them talk about death. A lot of people think it's kind of up there with like the Sesame Street Mr. Hooper episode, but I think it's really important because especially the way that the Mud Bunny was talking about his death was very reminiscent of the AIDS crisis, where it's like, I don't know when it's going to happen. It could happen any day. It could happen to any of us. Just very much rings true, especially having Richard play the bunny. And then I believe they had Rob Mills play the lizard, and he's the one who does the body performance for Junior. So
God,
that's
I have
that's
chills.
it's yeah.
I'm
I
I'm
watched
getting
that episode for the first time last year on June 12th, which for those who don't know is the anniversary of the Pulse shooting, which is something that's always been very like hard for me. Like I was in high school when it happened. I just found out I was gay like less than a year before, so it hit me really hard.
Insane.
And so I was like, you know what? Like it's a tough day for me. Let's turn on some Fraggle Rock. It'll make me feel better.
And it
And
was
it
not.
did
like
not.
the episode about gay
It
people
was,
dying.
I was
And you're
like,
like,
yeah,
God
I was
fucking
watching it and I
damn
was
it.
like, what's happening? And so I go on the Muppet Wiki and they were like, yeah, it's like the AIDS episode. And I was like, oh my,
Oh my
not
God.
helpful. Did
Not
not make
yeah,
me feel
me when
better.
I'm sad about a bunch of gay people dying and I watch the media about gay people dying.
Oh my God. Yeah.
I just want to say like that recap was beautiful. I think you
Thank you.
outlined that episode. Like I felt like I was there watching it again.
I've
Like
seen
holy
it so
shit, I
many
have
times
chills.
now.
I think I want to like I want to talk about in regards to this episode. When you read we both all have our copies of the Bible. In this copy of the Bible, they talk about the Fraggle
Hmm.
Rock episode specifically, and they talk about how at this time in New York City, and many like major cities and all around the country, as the AIDS crisis is happening, queer people are having to bury their partners, bury their loved ones, bury their friends, and then still go on with their lives and still have to go to work, still have to fucking pay taxes and shit. They still have to like live their fucking lives. And that really became, the joy and resistance that you saw out of the Stonewall movement, as you saw out of like queer rights in America and throughout the world, is these queer people were burying their friends and family, burying their loved ones, and then still getting out into the streets to celebrate and sing and dance and celebrate their queerness and identity because that's all they had fucking left. And to have an episode where the most important person to this show is currently dying of AIDS. They've had to bury so many of their friends, had to just recently bury their their lover, because of this AIDS crisis. I really think it speaks to the way that Wembley still ends up like dancing and playing with the rest of Fraggle Rock, that he can still have the memories of the play and the beautiful time that he had with the Mud Bunny. It really, really speaks to how queer people had to bury their friends and then they came into the streets and had that joy and resistance. I think this piece of media is one of the most important like queer pieces of media of all time in terms of representing grief from the AIDS crisis. A moment in time that is so often overlooked. Like we've lost a generation of queer people. We lost so many. Like we lost more queer people
Mhm.
than like I don't know the exact statistic, but the amount of queer people that were lost was like the equivalent to like a major war. And there's not much media that really speaks about it, specifically not children's media that goes into it. The fact that Fraggle Rock did this episode, one, I think speaks to the influence of Richard and how important he was to the plethora of the Muppets, but two, shows that this was not just like these attempts by the Henson Company to do these progressive things were in earnest. They were not just these like sidelined projects and shit. The people working at Henson were experiencing their own friends and family dying.
Yeah.
And so this episode I think is so important and speaks to the progressiveness of the people who have worked within Henson. I'm starting to ramble, but I love this episode, and thank you, Becca, for giving us
So
that
good.
recap.
Yeah. And like Richard said, like later on, he was like, this episode like helped me work through my grief because he was kind of like, he's, from the book, you kind of get the perception that he's just kind of like an always on person. He doesn't stop. And this episode kind of helped him stop and evaluate and like work through the grief of like losing his long-term partner. And then also like how that grief is hand in hand with, well, if he had it, then I have it. Um, and I just think I think it's one of his best performances. And it's like I think about it all the time. And
Richard,
they still use the Mud Bunny puppet all the time. He's in Treasure Island. He's in Christmas Carol. He's in Back to the Rock. Like just in the background, but he's there. So whenever I see him, I'm like, Mudwell the Mud Bunny,
my buddy.
alive and
I
well.
think that like Richard having the ability to do this episode, still pulling it together to make this episode happen is incredible when you think about the historical context surrounding this episode. Like, Richard's currently dying of AIDS. It's not much longer until he passes. The last thing he ever really performed on was like Muppet Vision 3D, which did not come out much after Fraggle Rock, like much later after. I think that Richard um, for him to pull him like to be able to do this episode while he's burying his lover and currently dying of AIDS himself, it speaks to the resilience of queer people and this window into the life of Richard Hunt that we have gotten. It's like, while Richard Hunt was a unique person and brought so much unique, incredible stuff to the world, it just speaks to how so many queer people were going through this and we're never going to hear their stories. And like Richard is an incredible representation to the lives of queer people that were lost in the AIDS crisis. And I'm thankful that we got what we got from it. Like, I'm thankful for all of the characters he did on Sesame Street and Muppets and Fraggle Rock and everything, because he really showed the level in which a queer person could get to in this time and then still be affected by the AIDS crisis. It's like it really just like Richard is a phenomenal representation into like a window of queer lives in the AIDS crisis.
Yeah.
I think it being in a show like Fraggle Rock is particularly poignant because Fraggle Rock's like existence is was like entirely about unity. It was about sort of like bringing humanity together. And I think having an episode like that in a show like that is incredibly powerful and I think entirely appropriate because that's like sort of the nature of Fraggle Rock is episodes like that with sort of powerful themes that are maybe more than the sum of the parts of the episode. And it wasn't just in the sort of original run of Fraggle Rock. The, of course, iconic original run of Fraggle Rock had so many incredibly powerful episodes like that, but they revived it in recent years in the form of Back to the Rock on, I want to say, Apple TV Plus.
Yeah,
So obviously there's differences in like the production between like original like Sesame Street and like modern Sesame Street, classic Muppets, modern Muppets. There's of course like difference in the sort of like level of production and sort of like the performances and like the characters that are being portrayed. But I think Back to the Rock largely maintains the spirit of the original Fraggle Rock pretty
100%.
pretty well preserved.
I
And
would say out of any Muppet reboot, Henson reboot possible, Back to the Rock is the best one,
The best.
considering the fact that the Henson Company, it took them super long to make it because they weren't going to just jump the gun and like do a Fraggle Rock reboot because it could have made them money. Like they meticulously took the time and effort to make this show over years and years. Like what I love about the Henson Company is that often they won't do a project until they have like the funds to do it and they're not going to rush out a project. So just wanted to say that. I love the Henson Company with that.
just the
Yeah.
subtle glazing of Back to the Rock there. We love to see it. We love to hear it.
Back to
It
the Rock.
rules.
But I think that is in large part due to the fact that they didn't shy away from having episodes in a similar sort of theme,
Yes.
which I believe Becca cited a number of those in this
Yeah.
Substack article that you should have read by now. But also, I think it's important to shout out because he's had a promotion recently. Uh,
Hmm.
Head creatives at Back to the Rock.
Johnny in the Sprite
Johnny and the Sprites?
Tartaglia.
Johnny and the Sprites Tartaglia. Um, has recently become vice president of development at the Jim Henson Company, which is absolutely huge and absolutely major.
Amazing.
for more LGBT creatives, particularly LGBT creatives working within puppetry spaces, John was obviously a huge creative influence and a huge creative voice on Back to the Rock, which you would kind of have to be in order to take on the iconic role of Gobo from Jerry Nelson. And I would say do it pretty damn well.
I love his gobo. His gobo is phenomenal.
It's
It's
so fun. And he's Sprocket.
Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, having a creative and a performer like John Tartaglia be at the forefront of a Fraggle Rock reboot, I think is entirely appropriate. And I think it is, again, it's very poignant that it's reminiscent of the production of original Fraggle Rock. Like, yes, like it is Henson Company at the helm, but like having a an LGBT like creative at the head of this production or in like a lead creative position in this production and in the performance aspect, I think definitely shines through in the text, and it's why it's held in such esteem and why it continues to be popular in an age where Muppet and like Henson stuff comes out of the woodwork and then gets axed immediately, a la Dark Crystal, and why we haven't heard anything about a Muppet Show revival yet, despite the fact that the special was really
Successful.
D23 is coming up. If it comes and goes,
Oh,
that's
you
it.
should.
we
Like,
I think Will brings up a very good point here. I just think it's beautiful to me that Richard Hunt was the person that Henson trusted to really lead Fraggle Rock, to be the person keeping it together while he was off doing other projects like Dark Crystal and shit. Like he really got Richard Hunt to be at the helm, and it showed like the progression of his career, being an 18-year-old who joined the Muppets and then now is running like one of their biggest shows ever. For Johnny T, Mr. Tartaglia, and the Sprites to be the head of Fraggle Rock now and have such a high position within the Henson Company, I think one shows that like the Henson Company has always like more than pretty much any company I can think of has supported fucking queer people and queer artists throughout its run. And two, it's just like a beautiful legacy that Richard Hunt left on Fraggle Rock, that we have an openly gay person running the show now who can explicitly make like pro queer, pro LGBTQ plus episodes. Like there's drag queens and like specific episodes that have won GLAAD awards because of how fucking outwardly queer they are. And that would never have happened if Richard Hunt did not leave the legacy that he did. If Richard Hunt, dying of AIDS, writing episodes and contributing to Fraggle Rock in a time where queer people were facing such mass oppression. If Richard did not like still forward the joy of resistance that he did back in the fucking 80s while all of this was happening, we would not have Johnny T and the Sprites fucking running Fraggle Rock now. I think it's all a beautiful progression of queer representation within Muppets and within the Henson Company. I think it's fantastic.
And I think it's clear to say that the Henson children are very supportive of queer people and of queer art. I can name two particular instances. One, a Momi weekend last year when Heather Henson asked me and my boyfriend Mikey about Hatsune Miku. And two, whatever the hell is going on between every character pairing between Brian Henson and Bill Beretta.
One
Whatever.
of the funniest moments of my life was the Hatsune Miku Heather Henson moment from Momi last year.
Wanted to know. She was
So funny. But I just think that, like, I've had the privilege of meeting Heather a good amount of times now. Every time she has been so supportive of queer people, incredible. And what was beautiful about Momi last year was I was able, like many of the Muppet fans there, I was able to meet Rachel Hunt, the sister of Richard Hunt. And I was in drag as Piggy meeting Rachel Hunt. And of course, I got so choked up being like, your brother was such like an influence. And she has been so vocal and outward about Richard's queerness and about the importance of that. I made this post about the AIDS quilts that were sewn together for Richard Hunt after he passed. They're beautiful. I really recommend checking them out. It's publicly available online. They're beautiful, and they really show like Richard's legacy within the Muppets. And I ended up having a really fantastic conversation with Rachel Hunt about that and about how when Richard passed away, the queer community of New York did see him. And I think a thing that Richard that struggled with throughout his career, and many queer artists have struggled with throughout their lives, was feeling like they were not getting the credit nor the representation that they deserved. Richard felt throughout his run. It wasn't until like Muppet Family Christmas did he feel like truly like he was like considered a main part of this like whole production and everything. But when he passed in the queer community of New York, and many people working at Henson, Fraggle Rock, at the Muppet Workshop, so many of these people came together to contribute to the AIDS quilts. It really showed that, like, yeah, Richard's legacy was seen, and Richard and so many other queer people were fucking seen within this. And this denial of their existence, this denial of the beautiful lives they lived, is just fucking homophobia, just like an effort to deny the fucking rich lives of these queer people. And the fact that this book exists, the fact that we have episodes in Fraggle Rock, that there's a continued legacy now of queer episodes in Fraggle Rock, really just show that, like, Richard, his legacy, and so many queer people who died in the AIDS crisis, their legacies are not being forgotten as long as there's fucking queer people still making media like this.
To segue back to The Rock, uh,
Yeah.
Becca, you cited a couple of examples of particularly poignant queer episodes, or the
Yes.
themed episodes in Back to the Rock. And since your episode recap of that Fraggle Rock episode we just talked about was
Yeah.
so wonderful, I was wondering if you would do us the kindness of doing
Yes.
it again.
Yeah.
Yes, give us like
So,
a brief overview of these queer episodes because
yeah.
as much as I love Back to the Rock, I would love the perspective and the analysis of someone who's looked at these episodes. And I should say, a lot of these episodes have won GLAAD awards. We mentioned it earlier. Like they
Yeah.
have won awards for being representative of queer people. But
Hmm.
Becca has the floor.
Great. So, in Back to the Rock, there are two seasons so far, and in season one, they have what I like to call the gay episode, and in season two, they have what I like to call the trans episode. So, starting with the gay episode, they picked out the gayest Fraggle, Boober,
Of course.
um, and they gave Boober, they made something different. They made him find out that when he's really excited or like really happy, the tip of his tail, also called his Belubius, glows.
Oh.
But he's like, oh God, my Belubius is glowing.
Yo, why are
No
you
one
tugging
can
on your
find out.
Volubias? What the fuck?
No one can find out that my Belubius is glowing. That's not okay. The world isn't ready for Belubiuses that glow.
Who up
So,
glowing Bay Belubius right now? Be honest.
These
yeah.
glowing Volubiuses destroying family values in this country.
So he's like, no one can find out about this. And Gobo had recently gotten a package from his Uncle Matt containing what Uncle Matt called a bizzle. It's an empty plastic water bottle.
Hell
But
yeah.
yeah, so Wembley sees that Boober's Belubius is glowing, and Boober's like, you cannot tell anyone that my Belubius glows. We have to hide it. And so while they're talking about this, the other Fraggles are coming in, and Wembley panics, and he shoves the plastic water bottle, the bizzle, onto Boober's Belubius. But it's a plastic water bottle, so it's like
Yeah.
see-through. It doesn't really do anything. So then they put like a sock on it or something. But then everyone's like, "Where's the bizzle? What happened to it?"
See that
Um,
shit, bro.
we
You
need
got us
that.
all excited to see it. Where is it?
We were gonna make an Uncle Matt museum with the bizzle. And they even called over the head archivist Fraggle, and that's like just her name is just like the archivist. I don't know. She's purple, and she's played
Badass.
by Cynthia Erivo.
Cynthia Erivo.
Um, my queen, defy gravity. And so she comes and she's like, "Where's the bizzle? I'm here to appraise the bizzle." And Boober's like hiding because the bizzle's now stuck on his Belubius. He can't get it off of his Belubius. So eventually, the other Fraggles realize that the water bottle is stuck on his tail. And he's like, "You know what? It's fine. Like, I'm just gonna go sit in the museum and no one can bother me. Like, I'll just go be there." And then Cynthia Revo shows up and she's like, "What's your deal?" And then she tells him that her Belubius glows too. And Boober's like, "Oh my God, like I didn't know other people had glowing Belubiuses." And so then they sing a song, and Boober finds out that if your Belubius glows, you can fly. So he defies gravity with the Cynthia Erivo Fraggle.
Oh my goodness
Well, if
me.
I'm gay, I can fly. I'm going to my roof right now, dog.
Dude, yeah, moral of the episode, gay people can fly. And then other Fraggles in the rock come out as also having glowing Belubiuses.
Oh my goodness.
So good.
Wait, that's kind of really sweet, actually.
It's really
That
nice.
is so sweet. They're
Um,
like, queerness is a superpower, quite
it
literally. Your
is.
ass can
It's
fly.
beautiful. It makes light. It brings joy to the world. You can
Oh,
fly.
why would always a
Cynthia
plus?
Revo is here.
Would
Alphaba.
always a plus?
Like, so 10 out
I
of
think
10. So
that
that one was like, whereas like the Mud Bunny episode was written, maybe no one's ever really confirmed that it's about AIDS, but it's like it probably is. It's definitely about death, but it might be a little bit about AIDS. This one, they were like, yeah, it's a coming out metaphor. We wrote it to be a coming out metaphor. That's what it is. It's the coming out episode. So
It's
that one's really,
Chadlia being
yeah,
able to just like outwardly confirm that, like,
yeah.
yeah, what it is. And
They're
there's
like, yeah. We're really glad that they picked Boober, the gayest Fraggle. I got to hug Boober like a week and a half ago when I was at Fraggle
no.
Rock Live adult night because I had my little Boober in my hands and he saw it and he was like, "Come on in," and I was like, "Yes."
oh,
Can confirm
You're
Boober's really soft and he's really nice
how
and
I
he's
love that. I love that.
um
I'm so happy, one, that you got to go to the Back to the Rock
so
live. Like, that's
good,
sick as
so
fuck.
good. Yeah,
But two, what a beautiful, beautiful episode that you just
yeah,
described for our audience here. Like, I think that the way in which Fraggle Rock, Back to the Rock has operated, being so outward about their like representation of queerness, like that is such like when we talk about these episodes and stuff, it's like a really beautiful thing. It's really cool that they're like representing queer people. I don't think people give it enough credit for how like radically cool, like how radically incredible that is. That in this moment in time where there is such heightened oppression against queer people, where people are being forced back into the closet, like anti-trans, anti-queer legislation and media is being like pumped out by right wingers in this country and across the globe. Like to have something so outwardly queer and be explicit that this is about coming out, and we're giving people tools and resources to be able to feel better about their own struggle and their own ability to come out in this world. Like, I think that's radically so important. I think they're doing media that is like desperately needed nowadays. It's beyond like a bunch of gay people. Like we're three queer people being like, wow, awesome queer episode. It's so beyond that. It is
mhm,
true representation in fighting back against like the sheer massive amount of negative media about queer people. Like I
yeah.
commend Fraggle Rock Back to the Rock so hard for this episode.
Yeah, they give the kids watching it like such good language to describe coming out or to describe like there's something different about me and I don't know if it's just me or if other people have it too. And
It's like
it goes so
conservatives
well.
want to
It's so
act like
nice.
if they just deny the existence of queerness, it'll just go away. But I think we can all speak to the fact that like we grew up as like queer kids who didn't
Yeah.
really have like the language or the labels to be able to apply that to ourselves and the resources to be able to like express ourselves fully. And the fact that like the security and the sense of hope that I get knowing an episode like this exists. I hope some other queer kid is able to see this and get the resource and the safety and the language. That is such a benefit that's being pushed forward by this episode.
Yeah.
I think I would have benefited so hard from this as a kid, and I am very thankful that we have media like this that is this
Yeah.
explicit.
What I
I think
really like about this one is that it's like the one with Boober is a metaphor, but it still works really well. But the trans episode isn't a metaphor. Like there are just trans and gender nonconforming characters.
oh,
Like
So
transness
great.
exists in Fraggle Rock, and
Yeah.
people are accepting because that's how it should
Yeah.
fucking be.
Yeah.
they're like, oh, we're doing like a really beautiful poetic sort of like allegory for coming out. And then
Hmm.
next season we're putting transgender Muppets in there, and there's not a damn thing that you can do to stop it.
Can't do anything
They're
about it.
already made.
Y'all
Yeah.
had a problem with Gonzo coming out, being gender nonconforming, trans,
Mhm.
whatever, and Muppet Babies. Bitch, we're being even more explicit.
Wait
Like,
till you meet Pogi.
conservatives got all up in arms about the Gonzo episode of Muppet Babies, about the transness and the gender nonconforming messages that were being put in there. They got so up in arms when fucking Mr. Ratburn had a gay wedding in Arthur. But conservatives miss these outwardly queer Fraggle Rock episodes. They miss so much like outwardly outwardly queer explicit things because they don't have media literacy. They don't know about the things that they're talking about. Like they got all mad at that time Arthur had a gay wedding, ignoring the fact the decades of that public show openly supporting queer people, openly supporting just like celebrating diversity and celebrating people's differences. Muppets, Sesame Street, all of that. Like if you ever see a conservative getting mad at Fraggle Rock or a Muppet thing or whatever, just remember they don't know jack shit about what they're talking about because this shit is so explicit and they don't have the media literacy to fucking to critically think about these explicitly wonderful queer episodes of Fraggle Rock.
So, one of the other big queer episodes of Fraggle Rock Back to the Rock, like I mentioned before, is the trans episode. Um, so this one, it's a lot more upfront about it. Like it does use some metaphors and allegories throughout the episode, but like the main plot is this Fraggle is non-binary and this one is gender non-conforming. So starts with Wembley. He's in Moki's cave. They're going through some of Moki's old stuff. Like they find her old robe from like old Moki and like some accessories and stuff that she doesn't use anymore. Wembley like basically like fits out. Like he gets on like the robe, he's got necklaces, he's got bracelets, he like slicks his hair up into like a little Fraggle ponytail. Like
Diva.
he's feeling himself, right? And so he comes out and he's like, all right, I think I look good, but like this is so different from regular Wembley. Like different vibe, different look. And he gets out right as the Fraggles are making like a Fraggle pyramid that Red Fraggle is leading. And Pogie at the top of the pyramid gets distracted when they see Wembley and they make the pyramid fall down. And then Red turns around and she's like, Wembley, why did you do that? And Wembley thinks she's talking about the outfit. And he's like, oh my God. Like, I don't know. I don't know why I did that. I don't know why I did that. And so he runs away just as Red turns around. It's like, oh, Wembley, do you want to come in for round two? But he's already gone. And he thinks, oh my God, like I shouldn't have changed. Like I look too different. I don't look like normal Wembley. I look like different Wembley. And he even starts getting like he'll look in the reflection of ponds and there will be like the regular Wembley being like, switch back to normal Wembley. Go back, normal Wembley. No, no cool Wembley. So he's like freaking out and like in his mind, he's like, what would my friends say? What would Gobo say specifically? Um, and then Pogi sees that he ran away and they follow him. And then at the same time, Gobo's off on some adventure, and so Red is like leading like a celebration for Gobo when he comes back from his 15-minute walk. Um, and she's splitting the Fraggles up into Go and Bo. Like they're gonna go, Bo. And she's like, you have to either be a Go or a Bo. We'll get back to that. So Wembley's wandering around. He goes to a river. He like washes the goo out of his hair, so it goes back to normal. He ditches all of his accessories. And then Pogi finds him. And Pogie's like, you need to come hang out with my friend, the great Glitterini, who's going to show you, like, it's cool to be you. Like, it's okay to experiment a little. And Wembley's like, okay, like, whatever, fine. So they go to this cave, and there's like this kind of purple monster thing there, just kind of like a Fraggle creature. And at first, like they look kind of dull, like there's not really much glitter, there's not much great. And Wembley's kind of like, aren't you like supposed to be the great, like glitterini, like great, big, glittery? And the great glitterini's like, yeah, watch this, and like basically turns into a drag queen.
Ah,
Is Adam Lambert, I believe. That's the gay one, right? The
that
first time
makes
I wrote
sense.
this, I had Adam Levine, and then I went to check and I was like, wait, wrong Adam. Adam Lambert,
Adam
the gay
Levine.
one.
I can sing about a payphone, but I don't know about all this gay stuff.
Yeah.
I'd be like, God, that Fraggle of yours is absurd.
Literally. So it's Adam Lambert, the gay one. He's the great Glitterini. And basically they sing the song and they show Wembley that in the glitter cave you can like glitter into whatever outfits you want. Like if you think of it, you can glitter it on. I don't know, Fraggle magic. And so Pogie's going through like a bunch of different outfits, but then lands back at the outfit that they wear pretty much every day. And then the great Glitterini like says something about Pogie and says like, oh, they feel like most like themselves. And this is the first time in the entire Back to the Rock show where anyone has used pronouns for Pogie, and it is they them, which is really cool. Because Pogie is a new character for Back to the Rock, didn't exist in the OG, and I guess they've always just been kind of talked around. Like the pronouns haven't really existed. They just go, oh yeah, that's Pogie. Pogie's catchphrase is also I'm Pogie. Like anything will be happening, and they'll just pop him up and they'll go, I'm Pogie.
I
Don't
love
forget,
it.
I'm Pogie. So what I really like about that is a lot of time in like children's media when they'll have like a one-off non-binary character, because this actually does happen kind of strangely often in children's media, it'll usually just be like a one-off. It'll be like one episode where this new character who hasn't been in the show before comes in, is non-binary, and then leaves. So what
Hmm.
I like about this is that Pogi has been here since day one of Back to the Rock and has continued to be here since that special. But they just kind of said, oh, by the way, Pogi's non-binary. Like Pogi uses they them. And Pogi's always been here and Pogi is going to continue to always be here, which is
I
really
really
great.
like that they like
Yeah.
explicitly address it. Not to cut you off,
Hmm.
I think that is incredible that Fraggle Rock, Back to the Rock explicitly
Yep.
addresses their pronouns. Because I'm thinking of other shows like
Hmm.
Thomas the Tank Engine had a technically non-gender non-conforming character that the writers were very explicit in making them gender non-conforming, but then they gave up on it and they never actually addressed it. So it was pretty
Yeah.
much lost to time. And their
Hmm.
efforts honestly didn't matter for that like big amount of representation. I
Yeah.
like that Fraggle Rock is actually explicit about the
Yeah.
representation.
They're like,
We made it 15.
Pogi's here.
I was wondering how soon it would take for the pod to circle back to Thomas the Tank Engine at some point. We made it
Hey,
15 big.
Rusty, the character Rusty in the Narrow Gauge Railway, technically gender nonconforming. Brett Allcroft, the creator of the show, was like, we need to have a gender nonconforming character. And then they just like dropped it. But like for a brief period of time, they did have one.
Who
All right, Thomas
brought
the
in
Tank
a
Engine,
non-binary
get on back to the Rock's level.
Literally.
Yeah, so they're in the cave, they're glittering. Wembley's trying out some outfits, but then he kind of gets in his head again, and he's like, "Oh my God, what's Gobo gonna think?" I don't know why Gobo's like the stand-in for the straight friend. I mean, I kind of see it, but
It
like
makes sense.
it makes sense, right?
He's a
So they're
total
like,
dude, bro.
Bobo's like
yeah,
the most heteronormative Fraggle, apparently. It is like, oh, I forgot a
yeah,
traditionalist Gobo hates me and my pronouns.
Oh man, I gotta go to outer space and I won't
yeah.
use the correct pronouns. Like, no, Kobo, what are we
No.
doing?
Gobo, no. But yeah, so Gobo's kind of like the stand-in for the straight friend, and Wembley's like really, he's like, what's Gobo gonna think? Like, Red got mad at me. Moki was fine with it, but like Moki's kind of, she's always doing her own thing, right? Nobody's thinking about Boober, I guess. He's already gay, so like, he's really like, what's Gobo gonna think? And so he gets so in his head about this that he causes a glitter nado in the glitter cave. Um, and
Dude.
going crazy. There's glitter everywhere. And the great glitter is like, Wembley, like, you have to accept yourself. And Wembley's like, no, 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 I don't. And eventually Pogi comes over and they're like, I'm Pogi. And Wembley's like, oh my God, I know. We know you're Pogi. You say it
Bitch, shut up.
every
I know you're
day.
pokey.
We
Goddamn.
know. And Pogi's like, exactly. No matter how I change, no matter how I dress, I am still Pogi. Just like even if you change how you dress or how you look, you're still Wembley. And then Wembley's like, oh my God, you're right. I am still Wembley. And then he chills out.
Fire.
Um, yeah, and then they get all glittered up and they go back to the like Gobo welcome back parade. Again, he's been gone for like 15 minutes. It's really funny. They have a celebration for everything. And Red is like, Pogi, you have to either go in go or bow. You have to be a go or you have to be a bow. And the more they say it, the more it
It sounds
sounds
like
like
a
girl
girl.
or boy. Yeah, like you have to be a girl, you have to be a boy. And Wembley's like, hey, Red, Pogi's actually not a go or a bow. Pogi's their own thing. So what they come up with is half the Fraggles say go, half of them say bow, and then Pogi goes, yay! And
Oh.
they're all glittered up. And then Gobo comes back and he's like, Wembley, you look great. Obviously, because Gobo's a great friend. And then they all sing a song about happiness. And at the same time, there's a subplot with Junior Gorg. They have a Gorg tradition where they set up two boxes, and one of them has like pink and red fabric in it, and the other one has like blue fabric in it. And they're like, you need to pick which box you're going in. There's a little bit
Damn.
of a heavy-handed metaphor there.
I was
Um,
gonna say, like the Fraggles, they've got this kind of like
yeah,
very sort of narratively driven sort of like
yeah.
allegory, and then and then
Yeah, and then
Papa
the
Gorg is like,
fucking
pick a pronoun this
Like a box.
the
Um,
fucking Gorgs, yeah, the Fraggles.
right now, or we're gonna have a
right
problem.
now.
Fraggles have this beautiful thing. You can be whatever you want to be. You know, we'll add a yay at the end. The Gorgs are just fully like, you're right, there's two genders, man or
Yeah.
woman, and you gotta pick
Yeah.
one.
You're either the tall box or the short box. Pick
You
one.
either the blue
Um,
box or the pink box, or you're out of here, son.
So then he's like, I don't know which box I want to go in. So he spends like the whole day deliberating, and his mom's like, hey, just a reminder, like when you pick a box, we get to have cupcakes. And he's like, oh my God. So then
First,
eventually
cake.
he gets so stressed out that he accidentally knocks the boxes over and they collapse. And then he starts dancing on the ruins of the boxes. And
Fuck yeah.
Pogward comes out and he's like, what have you done? And he's like, I'm so happy I'm dancing outside of the box. And
Ah.
Mogwart is like, oh, like that's so nice. And Pa is like, I don't understand. And Ma is like, you don't have to understand. You just have to support him.
Aww.
And then Doc's subplot is about her accepting that she's a singer. That one's not as that's just kind of like going on in the background.
Important as
But
accepting you're trans,
yeah,
gay,
yeah.
non-binary.
You're trans, you're a singer, you're not in a
Mom,
box.
dad, I have to tell you, I like singing.
Yeah.
Non-binary, Wendy's trans, and then the and then they're like, I think we all sing.
Yeah. He's like, no, singing is so embarrassing. Aunt, you can't keep posting my YouTube videos about singing from college. And then she's like, wait, I love singing. I'm gonna go to karaoke with my coworkers.
I want to know what the doozers are up to, like in
I
an.
think they're probably doing something.
I like the idea
But
that the
Like
storyline
we're
is more complex, like the smaller the being. I think the doozers are doing top surgery on each other, I think.
they probably they probably are.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
doozers are like, we have had gender affirming care well before Fraggle Rock
Yeah.
existed. This
We
is
found HRT like deep in the mines like decades ago. What are you
they're
doing?
just like,
Yeah.
we don't give a shit if
Extracting it
you're
from the
trans,
radishes.
gay, whatever, as long as you're working.
Working. They're like, yeah, just don't take too long off after your top surgery and like we're good.
Yeah, exactly.
Work.
We'll give you some PTO for your top surgery, but
Yeah.
get back to work, bitch.
Get your ass back in that bulldozer.
There's no slacking. You can be trans all you want. Just don't do it on company time.
I Becca, thank you again for this
Yeah.
incredible recap. Really wonderful. I just want to say that like I love as heavy-handed as some of these metaphors were and how
Mhm.
heavy-handed it's like literally breaking out of the box and dancing on the remains of the box. I love that though. We need
Yeah.
more explicitly forward and outward trans media that is not afraid to like talk about these things or use a pronoun and do all of those things that are like so hush hush. You know, all of these conservatives act like a children's show discussing gender nonconformity, nonconforming, what all that shit. They feel like discussing that is going to ruin people's minds, going to brainwash people. It's like all this is doing is giving children the tools to move through the future. You know, they might not be trans or whatever, but trans people are always going to exist. Non binary people are always going to exist. Queer people are always going to exist. I think it's extremely important that these tools are being given as forward as they are. I very much commend Back to Rock. I'm glad that
Yeah.
we have some good Pride shit to watch from Muppet shit,
Mhm.
y'all. This is great.
Yeah, that's what we're filling the last week of Pride with. We're doing just like a
Mhm.
marathon.
Yeah, as we should. I think
Yeah.
what I really like about the Gorg plotline is that it focuses more on giving language to the parents. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you don't have to understand your kid's gender identity. You don't have to know what a they them pronoun is as long as you use it and as long as you support them. Like, if your kid comes out as like demisexual, bigender, non-binary, and you're like, what are you saying to me? That's fine. As long as you're happy and supportive and doing what your kid asks you. Like, if your kid says, can you use these pronouns for me? You say, yep,
Yeah.
because that's your kid.
In
So
this day,
get it together.
in this day and age is quite literally life-saving. Like,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Being
100%.
having come out as trans pretty semi recently, that's been a big journey for me, figuring out my gender identity. Appreciate it. But like, I growing up wish myself, my parents are very loving and accepting. I'm very privileged to that fact. Like I appreciate them so much. But like myself, my parents, like I wish we had these tools growing up where they could explicitly know about like trans stuff and non-binary and all of these kinds of ways of expression. If I had been able to get that, I would have had this journey would have been a little easier. But I think it's really, really important that like we've recognized the kind of pitfalls that happen in conversations between children and adults, especially, between parents and their child, for very real things that end up happening in the world and very real people that people are going to experience and be, not confronted with, but it's like you're going to grow up and meet trans people and non-binary people. It's just that they exist in the world. Just having these tools, I think, is incredibly important. And I think they did a very, very good job at it. And just like, yeah, being trans, I love seeing this. It made me so emotional when you were doing that whole recap because I'm like, oh fuck, his straight buddy from childhood like still loves and accepts him.
Yeah.
I was thinking about all of my straight cis buddies from childhood who are still being loving and kind. I'm like, oh fuck.
No, the first time I watched it, I was blown away. Like the Boober one was good, right? Like, but it was a metaphor, and it was like, well, I understand what it is because I know about it and I know what I'm watching. But like when I watched I'm Pogi, I was like, oh my God, like I've never seen anything like this. And I spent multiple years working in an elementary school, so I have seen a lot of children's television and children's media. Like, and yeah, just to see this, to see how open they were with the language and the concepts was incredible. Thank you. Thank you, Back to the Rock. And this episode, I forgot to mention, is directed by our friend Johnny Tartaglia and the Sprites.
Yes,
So
indeed. Johnny P. Sprites.
Johnny P's
Right,
Sprites.
Tartaglia. So like obviously Back to the Rock has been so revolutionary and kind of like how overt and accessible it's been in kind of portraying these sort of themes of queerness and of identity. But I would kind of argue that there's always been something just kind of like inherently gay going on in Fraggle Rock. Like that's just a queer hangout. The Fraggle Rock itself, that's like a gay hotspot. There's something about it that probably somebody more articulate than me can put their finger on. But there's just like if we're being so real with ourselves, like obviously we got gay boober now, which like duh. Non-binary,
Non-binary Pogi.
Yeah.
that was one that I could have told you, but I never would have thought that they would have actually done it. Um, there is something just sort of spiritually lesbian about Moki, and I feel like I hope that
Yeah.
you would agree with this. There's something there.
I just want to say I'm glad we've broken the seal off the lid here. I'm glad we're discussing what has been going down in Fraggle
Yeah.
Rock all these many years. I have been being, I've brought this up a bajillion times. Oh, it's the meme Max talks about being from the West Coast. But being from fucking San Francisco and Seattle, I have spent 12 years in both fucking places, dude. And as you know, San Francisco and Seattle have an insanely high amount of gay people, trans people, whatever. The amount of queer co-ops, housing co-ops, the amount of queer polycules that I've met that are exactly like those fuckers down in Fraggle Rock. Too many to count. The amount of Moki adjacent lesbians that I've met who are like putting up GoFundMe's because their boober coded roommate is fucking like making them do the dishes and they're like, it's an unsafe housing environment. I've met that bitch
Yeah.
a million times.
That's
Dude,
that's a diabolical read.
that's so funny.
Moki, yo, you Moki type queer people always sending out GoFundMe's, bruh.
Dude.
Oh, oh my
I
God.
love you bitches though. I love you Moki girls.
Cookie Girls.
Come on the pod. Moki's
Yeah.
never can come on Muppet Moment.
I Moki bitches that they're
Yeah.
talking about.
Ah!
OG Moki to me, so femme lesbian. Obviously, like new Moki too, but there's like
Oh,
something about old Moki that's like, girl, you have crystals.
yes.
You have
That's
five
what it is.
cats.
It's
I'm
sort
I'm
of
literally thinking of like old Moki is very like I'll trade you a like sign reading for a fucking stick and poke tattoo. Like that's
Yeah.
the vibe old Moki
Yeah.
gives.
Yeah. No, I think old Moki and Red are like huge butch femme
Yes.
relationship. Like Red is such a butch lesbian. Also, young Karen Prell.
I know Karen
No
Prell,
comment.
like, I'm pretty sure Karen Prell has a husband. I'm not trying to speculate on people's,
I
like,
don't think, yeah,
sexuality and
like
shit,
I
but
don't think
Red
she's
Fraggle specifically.
I don't
Red
think she's part of
Fraggle
the
is so
community,
lesbian.
but Red Fraggle, have you seen her?
the work that you did, Karen Prell, for
Yes.
lesbians, we are grateful for.
Yeah.
Thank you, Karen Prell.
Thank you, Karen Prowl. for
Oh,
everything. Yeah, no, I think in the like one OG Fraggle Rock episode where they all fell in love with Wembley, Red was the only one to express disgust after the spell wore off. That's a
She's like,
lesbian.
oh
there's
my God, you wanted me with a fucking man or mass presenting non binary folk?
Yeah,
Fuck that.
it's
she
okay.
said absolutely not.
Red didn't know that Wembley was
Yeah,
non yet.
Wembley wasn't out of the closet yet.
Yeah,
Yeah, fucking Red and Back to Rock is like, well, if I had known that they were non binary, I wouldn't have been so misandrous.
Yeah,
Sanders. Oh my good God.
yeah,
There's just something beautiful about and I think it's the way that Max put it is like that it's just a co-op. Um,
yeah, it
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
It's
it's
amazing.
one of the only senses of true community that we have in the world anymore is in Back to the Rock. Nobody fucking looks out for each other the way that the Fraggles do. Not anymore.
I was about to say,
Yeah,
as someone who is in a socialist worker co-op myself, I have met a lot of people within that, whether working in the volunteer work or the different organizations around Seattle that we interact with. You are all Fraggle Rock back to rock coded, and I mean that lovingly in the best way possible. All of these queer bitches that I meet in co-ops, they are all back to rock.
yeah.
Becca,
Mhm.
I've heard rumblings about you and your party that attended Back to the Rock on adult night. That this may
Yes.
be speculation.
Yeah,
Um,
what's perspective from the adults from back to rock?
so
Dope.
adult night, like they couldn't go too crazy on stage because it's a pre-recorded track. But they did have a few moments when they were dancing. They had like a little solo dance moment. Red did the worm, Boober shook
Heyo.
some ass. Moki vogued. Shout out, that's a
Oh,
lesbian.
oh.
Um,
Fork and
Thank
Kitchen.
you. Thank you, Moki.
Thank you,
And
Moki.
then we got to meet the Fraggles afterwards. They brought out two, and we were all like saying, okay, like which Fraggle do we want to meet? And we all said, well, we have to meet Boober. He was the star of the show, and he's gay. And then we were kind of like, Wembley, Red, Moki. Gobo was kind of, no offense to Gobo, we love Gobo, but like, I don't
He's
know that he's anyone's favorite
The
Fraggle.
fucking straight dude, bro.
Yeah, like he's the everyman. So like Moki came out and we were like, let's go, let's go. And then the handler was like kind of going like back into the hallway. He's like, "Oh, like it's okay. Like don't be shy. Come out." We were like, "Is it Boober?" And it was Boober. And we screamed so loudly. We were, by the way, most of us dead sober, so had no reason to be this crazy. At
oh,
least I was. But they didn't have that many options for the Fraggle on the Rocks cocktails. So whatever. But while we were waiting, we were discussing how we thought like the Wembley Boober Gobo relationships kind of panned out. I've always thought Wembley and Gobo are best friends, but I think Wembley like has like a little thing like on the down low for Gobo, but like Gobo's straight. But then like Wembley and Boober are gay for each other. They even kiss in the original show. And
Yeah.
Uber kissed Architect Doozer at the end of Fraggle Rock Live. So
wait,
These
Architect
days,
is. Oh wait, I got confused for a second there because I
yeah.
thought I got it confused in my head with Archivist Fraggle, and I was like, oh my God, Cynthia Revo
No.
did the live show.
Yeah, Cynthia Riva was no, they had Architect Doozer. He just like gave him a little kiss at the end of the show.
Oh,
But I was also challenged by Leah and Layla. They were like, no, like I think it's like Gobo and Wembley are dating, and then Wembley and Boober are dating, but like Gobo and Boober are not dating. And I was like, I can see both. I can see both.
I can
And then
see
Red and
both.
Moki are doing their own lesbian thing.
Yes. I think
So
that at least we can all agree on
yeah.
that.
yeah,
hmm
there's
They're
some,
in their own world.
and then have we worked out what Matt's deal is?
Oh,
Uncle
Matt,
Matt
he
gives me
strikes me
gay
as like
uncle.
old gay man that's just
Yeah.
like, rich old gay who
Yeah.
like got it good. Like I've met so many rich old gay people in San Francisco who could give less of a fuck on what's going around with queer people now. They're so out in outer space in their minds. That's fucking Matt.
Yeah.
Also like a scathing but kind of accurate sort of portrayal there.
Yeah, of
Yeah.
the rich old guy who's just off on a boat somewhere and not giving a
Yeah.
fuck of what's going down in the rock.
He does not care. Like he's like, yeah, I'm just exploring the world,
Yeah,
doing my own thing.
I'm doing me. I literally don't care. You
Yeah.
Rich old
Like
gay. You hate to
y'all
see
have
it.
fun. He sends his nephew letters.
yeah.
Um,
It's about the best.
God, he is such a rich gay uncle. Holy
Like, and I
shit.
love that he's like an uncle. Like, where are Gobo's parents? No one knows. He's just got this uncle.
I kind of I love that in shows where like
Yeah.
where like characters have inexplicably got uncles but no like discernible parents. I love that we've never seen Robin's parents. Like
Yeah.
we put him with a brother or sister that is the father of or mother of Robin, and we haven't
Yeah.
heard shit from them. I love the
the
Robin
fact that they had
nephew.
the, the fact that they had an episode where Robin's like, my parents are getting divorced in like the 2015 show. I'm like, you have
So
parents? You don't
funny.
just live with
Wait,
Kermit?
wait, that's right. You're someone's kid.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck? Wait, you have parents? I thought Kermit was just like your stand-in dad.
I feel like
Yeah.
to the Rock like finishes, like it's gonna end and we're gonna see like Gobo's parents or something. I guess some
That would
kind
be so scary.
of probably
Yeah,
gonna
I'd be freaked
there's
out.
I
I
don't
want to
want
see
that.
what they look like.
the last episode is probably gonna be some kind of reveal where it's like they died when he was really young and he's like repressed it, which is why they've never
Yeah.
been brought up ever. And then it's gonna be
We're getting his like Batman origin story at the end of From Back to Rock.
yeah,
He's like, a hairy creature killed my parents.
he's gonna let go of his repressed trauma or something. Something like that.
Oh my
Yeah,
fucking
Yeah.
god.
free idea. I'm not SAG after
There
like
you go. Johnny T. the Sprites.
Come
Johnny.
on, Johnny T. Sprites. I
Come on,
also,
Johnny T.
it's like
Sprites.
when they introduced, like, Elmo had parents back in the
Yeah.
day, but they, like, made, like,
Elmo's
a
uncle
reboot of
died.
Elmo's parents.
I
I
don't
don't like
yeah, oh my
seeing
God.
a Muppet's parents a lot of the time. I think they miss the mark. Like, Elmo's parents, like, his dad is the most, like, divorcee in a trailer in Florida who barely shows up. Like, I'm not a fan of Elmo's parents,
Can
But
I
Elmo's dad is supposed to be like a good dad.
I'm
which
not
is crazy. He does not look like good dad.
I'm not huge on Sesame. I'm a big LARPer. Isn't Telly Elmo's dad?
No,
No.
dog,
He
no.
looks like Telly. I will give you that. But
Telly
he's
not
more
Elmo's
reddish and he
dad?
has eyebrows.
Kelly is just Elmo's homie, dog. Like they're just
Yeah.
boys.
What?
Like,
Damn. I
Kelly's
thought
just like a friend on the. Telly's just like they could maybe they're cousins or something, but no, Telly's just
Yeah.
his like that's my guy.
you
Wait
spent less
here.
time making Elmo do like
This
Twitter.
is Elmo's dad.
Ugh,
That's not
Louis.
Telly. That's
It
him.
He
looks
looks
like
like he's
him.
lost too much money at
Yeah.
the racetrack.
You know what this is
All
like?
I, yeah.
That's like when in like the MCU when someone wears like glasses and a cap as a disguise. That's Telly. You can't tell me that it's not him.
Yeah. Just
Yeah,
red with eyebrows. He has a mom too. I think his mom's like purple for some reason
I don't like that one
or
bit.
something.
That is fucking unreasonable.
All I
Um,
I
know is
do.
I saw like a clip where it was like Elmo's dad telling Elmo that like his uncle died or something. And I was like, oh, okay.
Well, your uncle died, Elmo. I
He's
hate
like,
the
my
voice.
brother's dead.
um,
Oh,
sorry about that, Elmo. You could not pay me to care about your problems, but I'm sorry that happened to you.
We'll get
yeah,
into it in the hot takes episode.
yeah.
There's a lot of opinions on Elmo and
See, I
his
held back from putting
I
in
got a
an
lot to
Elmo for
say.
the
We'll
hot
say.
takes. I did a lukewarm take because,
I was gonna do that, but then I realized that
yeah,
would twist my head off like a shrimp if I stole her thunder. But that's for next episode. That's
for
for next.
next episode, I'm excited.
Anyway, let's get back to some
Um,
more gay shit.
Yeah,
yeah.
we've talked about
Well,
Elmo for too long.
I think let's stick with because I also want to splinter off into the 2015 show, but I think let's stick with the trans and do Max's allegory.
Yes.
Max just
Yeah.
let on to the fact that like one of the big things she was excited about, not to put words in your mouth, Diva, but one of the big things she was excited about this episode was that we don't know what the sort of
Yeah,
thread
we
of
don't know yet.
we just know that there is a transgender reading of a very popular Muppet film, and so I'm gonna let you have the floor, Max.
Hmm.
Tell all.
Thank you, Divas. Thank you. Okay, so Muppets 2011 is a movie that we all like a lot. I know it's a very popular thing within Muppet fans. It's personally one of my all-time favorite Muppet movies. I adore Muppets 2011. But I am convinced, and I have sang Man or Muppet at karaoke so many times. Like, I do karaoke every other week. And every other week, I sing Man or Muppet. And to every crowd that shows up for karaoke, I have to say, I think Muppets 2011 is a trans allegory. I'm putting it out there. That's my take. I have a lot to explain with it, but I do think this movie can be interpreted as a trans allegory.
I was gonna say, are you gonna grace us with an explanation?
No, not at all. You just gotta take it now, of course.
We gotta pick up all the pieces ourselves, apparently.
Exactly. So I don't mean to spoil. There's a movie. I'm gonna just say a spoiler warning right now, like off the bat for the movie. I saw the TV Glow.
Oh my God, fucking
Um,
that movie beat.
Incredible. Throughout my transition watching it, it has been a knife to the chest in terms of my emotions. Like that shit, oh, helped me a lot with my transition, but oh,
What an incredible movie. I never want to watch that fucking thing again.
I
yeah.
haven't seen it yet, but it's okay. You can go.
Okay, it's going to
Yeah,
be very small spoiler.
that's
I'm
fine.
just only kind of talking about the premise of the movie and relating it
Yeah.
back. Like the entire thing won't be about I saw the TV Glow.
Hmm.
But the kind of premise of that movie is about this at the time boy who watches a TV show and he feels something, a connection that he has never felt before, felt represented in a way he hasn't felt before. He can't really put the words to it. And as they grow up and as they kind of go through the world and they kind of the movie is about them coming to acceptance with their like trans. It's an allegory for transness, that movie. Um, and it starts with them watching this TV show and seeing the representation in the show, and then like it becomes all like it becomes this whole big thing of them like rejecting their transness and then embracing it, but it all comes back to this show. Muppets 2011 is about this guy, Walter, who is obsessed with these people on television. That these people that he does not feel represented at all in his personal life. His friends make fun of him for like trying to do the things that he wants to feel represented by. The only person who understands him is his brother, his closest, most trusted person, and even then, he doesn't even fully understand. He just like loves and accepts him. But Walter finds the Muppets. He finds this group of like characters that are so diverse and they have so many unique differences to them and they are so like they're weirdos on screen that he's like I want to be part of it. It's not just oh I like the Muppets, I've become obsessed. He's like I need to be part of this. It kills me that I'm not part of this, that I'm not with these group of weirdos. Like he wakes up in a panic every night because he's like he just dreams so badly of like I want to be this. I want to be a Muppet. It's like he's like I don't want to just be here in my little small town, my tiny town of like 2,000 people where nobody understands me. I want to be a Muppet. And the whole movie, the entire fucking movie is about Walter finding this group of Muppets and being accepted by these Muppets, them telling him that like you can come with us, like you can be a part of this, like you can do that. And the whole kind of like cataclysmic biggest like climax of the movie is Walter like fully lamenting out if he is a man or if he is a Muppet and feeling torn between both worlds. And finally, at the end, Gary realizes that it's like, this is Walter's world. I've been there to support Walter, cheer Walter on, but like, I need to let Walter go and be with the people that he feels truly represented by. I'll go back to small town. And then Walter fully is like, I am a Muppet. I have embraced that about myself. I think it's also very poignant that the only other Muppet that explicitly says, I am not a Muppet, I am a Muppet, is Uncle Deadly. Like, so this fucking movie,
Yeah.
like, they call it comes to an end with Walter joining this group and fully being like, I am a Muppet. I am not a man. I am a Muppet. That is who I choose to be. That is what I am. That's what he said. He literally says, that is just what I am. So for me, I think the Muppets are representative of trans people, queer people, or like the queer community in general. Walter, like the Muppet, quote unquote, is transness and like being able to accept yourself as transness. I don't know if I'm a man or I'm trans, man or Muppet. And it's about his mental, his kind of struggle with figuring out like, should I join this group of people who I feel so represented by, or should I go back to my small town and like repress this and just try to be a man? Where it's like, no, I want to be a Muppet, and he fully joins it. And so for me, That shit was I Saw the TV Glow decade before that movie came out. To me, that even hits harder for me as a trans person that I Saw the TV Glow, not discrediting that movie at all. But thank you for letting me kind of go on my rant here, my little allegory rant. That is what I think, at least in my opinion, I interpret Muppets 2011 as a trans allegory.
I I'm immediately picking up everything that you've been putting down.
Yep.
I'm seeing the equations, I'm seeing the numbers before me. They're lining up. I think putting it in perspective of I Saw the TV Glow, as somebody who loved that movie but was utterly devastated by that movie, just like the Muppets 2011 being the good ending of I Saw the TV Glow is kind of like how have scholars not been working on this? Like what line of research could be more important than making this connection? Because literally, like the opening scene is him having a nightmare sequence of him being separated through like a TV,
Mm.
which is like the whole theme of for like to supplement your point of I Saw the TV Glow. The kind of like crux of that movie is that like the character played by Justice Smith in that movie like is in like another reality, like one of the girls from the TV show that he watched as a young kid. And it's like, and the ending is fucking tragic. It's his refusal to fully like accept that part of himself that keeps him locked in this like this fake world that is the real world, but is actually the world where like he's living in denial. And the ending is fucking agonizing. And just the idea of Walter being able to break that barrier, it's like, damn, that's actually kind of low-key beautiful. Do also love the idea that just like being a Muppet makes you transgender. I think we need to start applying that to every reading of the Muppets. Just
Everything.
Yeah, Muppet trans, Muppet trans.
the humans are they're all cis, and every single Muppet is transgender, is essentially what I'm hearing now.
Yeah.
Yes, a
Yeah.
hundred percent. But I just think like the movie, like Man or Muppet, is this beautiful song, Oscar award winning song that I think a lot of Muppet fans, of course, are obsessed with. But I don't see many Muppet fans like doing a reading of this song beyond just like, oh, it's Walter deciding if he wants to stay home or if he wants to join the Muppets, or he's like I, at least from my perspective, the kind of concept of this like internal struggle of like, am I man or Muppet? And with my kind of, I mean, it's a bias, but it's like from my reading of the Muppets, where there's so much queer influence. We spent the first part of this podcast talking about the history of queerness within the Muppets. I don't think it's like beyond any like I don't think it's like unreasonable to interpret it this way, because I think that man or Muppet is a beautiful thing. It's why I have this fucking Kermit tattoo. It's because of transness for me, because it's like choosing man or Muppet. It's like yeah, it's like it's a beautiful thing to me. A man or Muppet has been something that has actually impacted my transition really deeply. And so, fuck it. Even if I'm the only person reading 2011 like this, it's important to me as a trans person, and I just think it's a beautiful trans allegory, in my opinion.
You literally chose Muppet. Like you were
I
Yeah.
presenting
chose Muppet.
chose Muppet.
Amazing.
That's beautiful to me.
I love it.
Like,
I'm gonna think
oh
about it
my
every
god,
time I
that's
watch that
that
movie.
belt.
Yeah. My flatmate is a trans guy who every time he goes to karaoke, if he has to only do one song, it's Man or Muppet. So like I feel like there is a link between transness and Muppets 2011. But I just think that nobody had tapped into that oil well yet before yourself.
I think I might have seen one edit on like TikTok like 2 years ago. That was like Muppets 2011 with the I Saw the TV Glow music with like Walter.
Yeah.
And like I credit whoever that person was who put that like seed in my brain. But like I just think that like the whole concept of the Muppets being this group of this diverse group of people who are different. And that's like the kind of big thing with them, is that they are a diverse group. They have a lot of differences that deserve to be celebrated. And Walter, being in a small town, like literally is like watching them on TV, like the same way so many trans people, queer people watched queer people on television and like were in their own small towns wishing they could be part of that group. And then they eventually move to big cities, go to college, whatever. And then they find that group. Walter is just the young trans queer person looking for their acceptance in their community, and the Muppets are the queer community. I will die on this hill.
That's beautiful. I love that.
It's
And it's like
amazing.
even to say that like you're saying that like this reading is objectively true. But the thing that I love about movies is that there's kind of almost no correct way to interpret anything. It's kind of what you take out of the art. And it like the reading that you got, it doesn't contradict any of the themes of the film. It doesn't contradict like any like major like gratuitous like contradictions of like the Muppets or like what they're about. It's a reading that I think has enough like weight and enough like backing behind it that I feel is a perfectly valid reading. But even then, if I thought it wasn't a valid reading, I literally have no right to tell you that. Like that's what you
I am so
and that's important. That shit's important.
I'm so against every person who is like, yo, the just just because the fucking filmmaker made the fucking the windows blue, there's not doesn't mean I have to look into it. Like the windows are just fucking blue. Like, no. I think like every good piece of not even just good, every piece of art is up for interpretation, is up for perspective from somebody to be interpreted in a way that isn't like necessarily what the artist intended. I think that's also what's beautiful about the Muppets too, is because it is such an appeal to so many like different diverse groups of people that they made an effort in like representing explicitly that like Muppets are about love and joy and humanity. And if you're a human who wants love and humanity and cares about your fellow human, you're going to find something out of these Muppet movies. And whether that like relates to an explicit detail of your life or a like grander, more abstract theme, it's just like Muppets have the beauty to apply to so many elements of people's lives. I love the Muppets.
In this era of like anti-intellectualism that is just like
Hmm.
to thrive in like pop culture spaces, what we need is more transgender Muppets. That's how we remedy.
We need
Yeah.
more Pogies. We need more Wembleys. We need more
Yeah.
Walters who are definitely trans.
Also, just to backtrack really quickly to Fraggle Rock, Pogie is probably the most non-binary name I've ever heard. I'm surprised
Right?
I haven't met any Pogies yet. That is the most.
It's coming.
Yeah, I was gonna say like when this episode drops, we better we better be ready for the tidal wave of NB Pogies. They're about to hit the street.
Yeah. When like the kids of today grow up having like watched Apple TV as a child, I guess, they're gonna be like, oh my God, Pogi.
I know a
That's me
great
now.
name. As
Amazing
a
name.
Gen Alpha grown up parent, I know exactly what to name my third child. We already have iPad. We already have Miss Kirsten, and now we have Cody.
Oh my,
Whoa.
Miss
It's a good
Kirsten.
lineup.
That's a great name drop.
Yeah,
Hey, she's gonna be big. I'm saying it. Miss Kirsten's music room's gonna be big children's television. I'm calling my shot
he
now.
is.
Like obviously I think we've made a pretty strong case for Walter as like a queer-coded Muppet, but I would argue that he's in pretty good company with some other queer-coded Muppets. I feel like
Hmm.
hey.
We have some, I would say, three pretty strong duos that get talked about a lot as being gay. So we're gonna back it up. You know, we've talked a lot of Muppets, we've talked a lot of Fraggle Rock, but we really haven't talked that much Sesame Street yet. So let's go hang
Considering
out with my friends,
your
Ernie and
closest
Bert.
friends, Ernie.
I would
Visual
argue
audio listeners, there's Ernie and Bert on screen.
a
Some of the
giant
best
Ernie and
lines
Bert
ever.
final. We're gonna have some fun with Ernie and Bert.
Yes,
Um,
we are.
we could argue they are probably the first gay Muppets, the most gay Muppets, both in the show as much as it can be being a like toddler children's show, but I would argue culturally they have been seen as gay by the rest of the world for a very long time. They have been used in like New Yorker magazine covers, like when gay marriage things go through, they've been used in political cartoons. When like the Henson Company split from Chick-fil-A, they made a political cartoon with Bert and Ernie protesting, and then Gonzo being like, we shouldn't come here because they serve like Camilla's sister. Um, like if you if you ask people like about Bert and Ernie, they'll go, yeah, like the gay guys, like they're
Yeah,
gay.
that's the first thing that comes to people's mind.
Yeah, because like the thing is on Sesame Street, the puppets are kind of split between being adults and children. So like Elmo is 3.5, Big Bird is like 6. I don't know. But like Bert and Ernie are adults.
Hmm.
They have their own apartment. They don't have parents, I guess. They live together. They have two separate beds. but like they are adults, they are not toddlers. Um, and so everyone's like, so like there are these two guys who are like different, but like they only like each other's company and like they live together, and they're like best friends, you know. So
Y'all are
they're
two dudes living in New York in a brownstone together. I'm sorry.
yeah,
Like,
like opposites attract. Um,
Hmm.
So there's always kind of been like that question, definitely over the years, and it kind of came to a head recently. I want to say in like 2018, a writer from Sesame Street who wrote in the early 80s did an interview where he said, "Oh yeah, like I wrote them based off of like me and my gay partner. Like I based some of the Bert and Ernie sketches that I wrote off of things that happened in my gay relationship." And I think he even clarified, like, I'm not saying that they're gay, but he's saying some of the things that I wrote for them
Yeah.
came from a real life gay relationship. And that caused a lot of controversy. Like Sesame Street was like, puppets don't have a sexuality, which is like, all right, man, look
We
that's
at Kermit
not
and Miss
true.
Piggy. What are we talking about? Um,
There's straight Muppets, clearly.
they're straight Muppets, but there's no gay Muppets.
I was gonna say, you want to
And
talk about Muppets not having a sexuality when what the fuck have Piggy and Kermit been doing for like decades? Come,
literally watch the Muppet movie. They bang on screen. Like, I don't know,
they're
when they're
Literally.
running through the field
full
and
frontal.
she pulls him down. Come on.
Like, come on.
Come on.
That's okay, but
That's okay.
No gay
But
Muppets.
no,
No, these
and like
two gay guys who are clearly gay, they're not gay.
Bert
Kermit,
and Ernie is a much less toxic relationship than Kermit and Piggy. So,
literally
True.
in their like cinematic outing, they like
mhm,
fuck nasty on screen, but like on Sesame Street, you're not allowed to just like rage bait the love of your life. Come on.
come on.
Yeah,
Um,
the worst that Ernie does is bring too many sheep into the bedroom. And then Piggy is literally like slapping Kermit across the face, throwing him across the room
yeah.
after having dirty, raunchy sex in their first fucking movie debut. Like, what are we
Yeah.
talking?
And Kermit has commitment issues. Like, come
Yeah.
on. Come on. Um, but yeah, and I think at the time, Frank Oz actually also pushed against it initially because he was like, no, like, it was based off of me and Jim Henson and like we were just friends. But then I think he listened to like especially like queer youth who were like, that's what you see, but what I see is this. And he was like, kind of like, okay, well, like maybe we see different things in Bert and Ernie, but like if you get comfort and you feel like, like, oh, this is something familiar, like Bert and Ernie are like me, then that's okay.
I
So we
I
love
think
a
what's
king who listens and
unfortunate
learns.
Yeah.
I think it's like an unfortunate thing that like what is never discussed is Frank Oz's clarification where he was like, "Oh, I listened to a lot of queer people and I realized that Bert and Ernie has actually been very important to the queer
Hmm.
community." And so if that's like your interpretation, that's awesome. And like if there
Yeah.
was influence from that writer then being like based off of a gay relationship, that's great. The
Hmm.
only thing I ever see discussed is that first tweet that Frank made, where he's
Yeah.
like, Muppets aren't gay, they don't
Or
have
nothing.
sexuality.
And
And nobody sees his
no,
clarification.
like he listened and he learned. That's all we can ask, you know?
I feel like there's been a really positive trend of like, especially folks from like legacy media, stuff from like the 70s
Mhm.
and 80s, listening to like young queer people and like their experiences like with the characters that they originated and made iconic. And just kind of like while they may have their own like personal takes on them, kind of like allowing ownership of those to people based on sort of like if that's what you take out of the character, then that is important and that is true. Like Mark Hamill's an interesting character. Let's not this isn't me glazing him. He's an interesting character is what we will call him.
Mhm.
But his attitude towards Luke Skywalker, where he's like, if you think he's gay, then he was always gay.
Mhm.
Think he's trans, duh, of course he's trans. If you
Yeah.
think he's straight, absolutely he's straight.
Also,
Ownership of this character if you love him.
I want to bring up, I think Becca might be jumping on this too.
Yeah.
Mark
Uh,
Hamill was a deeply close friend of Richard Hunt in the
mhm.
Hunt family and was there for Richard throughout his whole
Everything.
death of AIDS.
Yeah. So I do wonder if that helps, like his specific, like, yeah, if you think Luke Skywalker is gay, like he's gay. Like Richard Hunt was a close friend of the family, like took the kids out on vacation, like confided in like Mark Hamill's wife. To be honest, that's like the best. best point in Mark Hamill's character that I've heard in a long time.
Becca brought up a really good point that when gay marriage was legalized in the United States, the New Yorker ran a cover because, the New Yorker famously, that's their thing of like running like these like specific covers for what is like important for the time being, like culturally. And Bert and Ernie, it was them on a couch, like
Yep.
watching the gay marriage legalization
Yep.
happen from their home, their shared home together. And
Hmm.
if that does like, whether or not these Muppets are explicitly written to be gay, like in the sense where it's like, whether or not a writer at the time or Frank Oz himself were like, these guys are gay. Clearly, Bert and Ernie have become massively important to like queer people culturally, to the point in which when gay marriage was legalized, they were like the biggest thing used to
Yeah.
represent that on one of the biggest publications in the world.
Yeah. And I think it was specifically like it was like a New York legalization or it was like a point in like New York gay marriage. Like it was something because I know it wasn't the like global 2015 legalization, but like the fact that they were like, who's gay in New York?
Who
Who
else can
else?
represent gay dudes in New York? Bert and Ernie.
Bert and Ernie. Um, and they've even because they also exist in like foreign, like international productions of Sesame Street. And so specifically in the German production, in like 2011, they did some fairy tale shorts starring Bert and Ernie. Actually, I'm going to backtrack a little bit. First of all, Bert is in drag all the time. Since the
Yes.
70s. I have so many Sesame Street books where they'll do like fairy tales or like Mother Goose, whatever, like imagination. And Bert is always in drag. He's always the princess who needs to be saved. I don't know what's going on there, but like historically, if they're putting someone on Sesame Street in drag, it's Bert.
It's about
Um, Fast forwarding again, like 2011, I think the German production of Sesame Street was doing these fairy tales, and they did two in particular. The first one was like a frog prince. So Ernie was a frog, and then Bert was a princess, a
And
little braid, a kiss on the cheek, and then he also turns into a frog. Um, and then they did another one that was like Sleeping Beauty, and I think this time they reversed. Like Bert might have been the prince this time, and then like maybe Ernie was the sleeping princess. So like Bert comes in, gave him a little kiss, and then they swapped places. Like Bert took a nap, and Ernie went out and explored the world. But I was like, you're making these guys couples in your little fairy tale
you guys be
shorts there.
making hits and
very
shit,
German
huh?
German Sesame Street. They even have a little frog cheek kiss. So
even though I'm 100% confident that we'll probably never get that like officially confirmed ever, um, in an ideal world, one writer would get it past the like everybody who wants to stop them. But like it's just kind of like I'm comfortable with them just being kind of like a universally accepted sort of like that's their deal. You know,
yeah.
Yeah.
because it's
Even
not
if it's never explicitly stated, it's like they've done so much representation in terms of being like cultural representation for queer people that like even if they never explicitly say it, I think Bert and Ernie like we know what they've had impactfully
We
for
know
like
what you are.
I think the thing that gravitates people towards it is that they're just so like wonderful together. Like they have such a beautiful domestic life. They're kind of like I feel like Bert and Ernie for like all of their like little mishaps and kind of like arguments and like shenanigans that they get into. I feel like that's kind of what we all strive for. Somebody who you're comfortable like being that much of yourself around with, somebody that you kind of maybe sort of like drive a little crazy sometimes. But like yeah, I don't know. I feel like in this life we're all kind of looking for the Bert to our Ernie or the Ernie to our Bert. It's just kind of like that's why I think it's so popular because it's like the dream. I
Mhm.
will also draw a comparison. I didn't grow up on this despite like being born and raised in the UK, but my wonderful boyfriend Mikey is a very big fan of them, and I'm just saying there is an immediate and very stark parallel that can be drawn between Bert and Ernie and Dan and Phil. That's all.
nah, god damn it.
It's
You're
like
right.
I
You're
don't go
right.
here, but like the second Mikey was like, okay, yeah, so like Dan is Bert and then Phil is Ernie. I was like, fuck, wait. But like, after being,
Yeah,
I was introduced to their dynamic for 5 minutes and I was like, okay, so like Dan's the Bert, right? And he was like, yes, exactly.
It
exactly.
wouldn't be a gay pride Muppets podcast episode if we didn't bring up Dan and Phil.
Exactly. It
Shout
was
out
just
Dan and
happen
Phil.
at one point or another we were going to end up circling back to Dan and Phil. This was
Yeah.
just the most sort of natural way to get it out there. I think there's a strong case to be made that Dan and Phil are pretty Bert and Ernie coded. Obviously, Bert and Ernie did it first. That's like, but yeah, they're the
I
predecessors.
can't believe Bert and Ernie are so Dan and Phil coded. This is crazy.
They set the standard, but also, they're like out now, and also it's kind of another interesting parallel is that they were together for like 16 years, but couldn't publicly say it, or like felt like they couldn't publicly say it. Um, my hope, my dream is that one day that happens for Bert and Ernie, is that they finally get to publicly say that,
Yeah.
like
Let's go.
the entire time when the cameras turned off, we were holding hands, and it's like, you know what? That's beautiful.
I love
Dude,
that.
I hope one day, Bert and Ernie can come out and everyone's just gonna go, we fucking knew it. Just like Dan and Phil. It's gonna be like,
Yeah.
we fucking knew it.
Nobody's
It's
gonna
like, oh, is this news? Is
Yeah,
this new information?
nobody's gonna be like, "Oh my God, thank you so much for telling us," or gonna be like, "What took you so fucking long?" God, it don't piss me off.
Get it
Oh my
together.
God. I was about to say, we mentioned that there's three kind of distinct Muppet gay duos. What, do we have an idea on who's the second gay Muppet
The
duo?
second one, they're a little classic. They're a little old. They kind of just sit in one spot all the time. Some could even say they're bolted to the seats. Um, our two hecklers who love nothing but each other's company.
Oh my God.
So,
I
Fat
Statler
gay
and
and wall gay.
Waldorf.
I'm
We
so
got a Richard Hunt character. Let's go.
Let's
It was
go.
gonna happen one way or fucking another. It was gonna happen.
Yeah.
I'm obsessed with Statler and Waldorf. They have been two of my favorite Muppets, like from a very young age. And I never knew what it was that gravitated me towards them because even before I was like able to understand like the structure of their jokes and the fact that they were just like curmudgeonly and hilarious, I just felt drawn to them. And it's again that it's a different kind of dream than Bert and Ernie.
Yeah, they're like, screw everybody else. I have you, and we hate the same things, so we're haters together forever. And it's like that's their heaven.
Think that they're like better than like the generations coming after them. They're like, oh, the kids these days, they're doing it wrong. They like they're all stupid. They're all going around with what's a neo pronoun?
I think they're just compelling because like A, they're so camp. Like, why are you at this show that you hate every night? Like every night you're at this show and you hate it, but you have the best seats in the house. You have the balcony, you have the box. Um, but also they're just like they don't like anybody but each other. But also going back to the original Muppet Show, there are several jokes instances that happen that it's like, hey guys, what's going on here? So famously the like at the ballroom dance bit that they do in multiple episodes. On more than one occasion, Statler and Waldorf come out of the box and dance together for the at the dance
Nobody
and they
asked.
like tell jokes.
Nobody is.
Nobody asked them to. Nobody else wanted to dance with them. Just the two of them. Multiple times, like not even just once. Because like I think I wrote about like the one time I saw it, and then I was watching other episodes later, and I was like, oh, they keep doing it. They keep doing it. Um, and then another time, Statler's trying to like impress some actress on the show, so he's listing off for Kermit like all these old like actors from Hollywood that he used to date, and he's doing like last names, and then he says like Barrymore, and Kermit's like, "You dated Ethel Barrymore?" And he's like, "No, Ethel was busy. I dated Lionel." Like, and it's like, what? Say that again?
I that I have that joke that I rolled that joke around in my head like a ball whenever I'm like bored.
All
I
the
just think about,
time.
hey, remember when Statler like hard launched his like situationship with Lionel Barrymore?
Yeah. Like, wait. And that's a Richard Hunt moment. And then I would argue the biggest and funniest one from the original Muppet Show is one that Statler's technically not even there for, is when he calls in sick. And so Waldorf brings his wife, Astoria, and Astoria is Statler in drag.
Yeah.
I feel really bad for them because they were definitely trying to like hard launch it and nobody took them seriously. They were like, what
Hmm.
if we just like launch the fact that we're fully together at the Muppet Show, but we have to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And nobody,
Statler is
oh, we have to stay in the fucking closet forever now, I guess.
Yeah.
Statler is literally like, I'll tell Kermit the Frog that I dated a man and maybe he'll accept us. And Kermit's like, I don't even give a shit about that. I'm just trying to run the show. Oh God, you have
I'm
to come
having
back and drag.
Statler's trying to come out to Kermit, and he's like, "I'm
Kill
having
that.
a stroke. Get off the stage. Leave me alone."
Kermit, I actually have something very personal I want to tell you.
He's just like, "I'll kill you if you don't let me proceed with this show. I don't care what you have to tell me." I feel bad for them because it's
Yeah.
Dude, I feel bad for them. I think it's like a real I think another point as to where they're clearly like an old gay couple. Fozzie's mom is like really good friends with Statler and Waldorf. And I know it's like the joke of like, oh, Fozzie's mom, it's funny that he's like that she's friends with the people who heckle him. But they're it's so coded. It's like these are my old gay friends that have been a couple for a long time. They visit me every time in the holidays. She's single, they're together. They always spend the holidays together. Like, I'm sorry, are they not gay? Are they not gay as fuck?
it's that's the kind of thing where it's like that's again, it is as Becca said, it is camp because there's nothing more camp than like befriending
Yeah.
the mother of like the person whose life you make miserable. That's fucking hilarious. Like they I know that they are friends with John Waters. I know that they go out for brunch with John Waters. They seem like that kind of crowd. I'm surprised that he hasn't joined them up in that fucking box at this point.
I just think like they're also iconic like in the way that Bert and Ernie are, where it's like people might not know their names, but like you can ask them about Muppets. They'll be like, oh, the old guys in the balcony. And you're like,
Yeah.
yep,
Yeah.
those old gay guys.
Yeah, there's
And
little
then
gay guys in the balcony, the old
yeah.
queens.
So our third duo, maybe one of the gayest, maybe one with the most to talk about here, is our good friends down at Muppet Labs, Bunsen and Beaker. Um,
Me, 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 me.
so fun fact, when they first introduced Bunsen, Bunsen mug, to the Muppet Show, they only had Bunsen in season one. And they were kind of like, oh, he's kind of funny, but he doesn't really work on his own.
Hmm.
So then for season two, they brainstormed, they thought about it, and they came back and they had Beaker. And so one, that's how you know that they are a duo. Do not separate,
Hmm.
buy together, stay together, because Bunsen literally did not work without Beaker. They were like, it doesn't work. He needs someone else. Um, They are always together. Bunsen is always subjecting him to different experiments, but Beaker, as Richard Hunt famously said, he's not just there like for the pay or for the internship. He is there because he has a genuine affection for Bunsen. He likes this guy, he likes his experiments. They have a great time together. As the show progresses, Bunsen starts to use like pet names for Beaker. He calls him Beaky.
Beaky.
At one time, he calls him Beaky Poo. Like, there's so much going on. There's
Normally
so
on the
many
bars of
things.
my closure.
There's so many things. Like at one point, one of his machines accidentally gives Beaker like a perm, and Bunsen looks over and he's like, Beaker, you look hauntingly attractive today.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Oh
hey
my
man, it's the 70s. What's going on? Like, um, there's yeah, just like the pet names, the compliments. They're
Beaker,
always
if
together.
Beaker didn't like Bunsen, he would have left a long time ago.
Yeah,
And like I kind of see often it thrown around that it's like if they are gay, it's like an abusive relationship. I don't know, man. You see Beaker and how he acts with that shit. He loves these goddamn experiments.
yeah,
I'm not trying to victim blame here, but if Beaker's not a victim, he loves that
no,
shit. He's coming back for it. Like I'm sorry, but like you said, like possibly one of the gayest. I would agree. The freakiest,
the
Uh,
freakiest.
The most freaked out Muppets,
100,
clearly.
100%.
and they
They
never
are,
ever lost sight of that. Even going up to as
yeah,
recently as the Muppet Show 2026. The Muppet Labs segment, I remember I had a whole watch party over to watch that shit. The moment when Bunsen is like, come here, and he like holds Beaker very close to him, and then very suddenly like drops his chair down. What that mean? Hashtag what that
that was so crazy. I was
on television.
I saw it on the big screen.
on the big
10
screen.
feet tall at Momi. Oh my God.
What that mean?
What the? I was like,
What
hey guys,
experiment could possibly call for that?
we gotta, I gotta update the essay now. I'm trying to go back to see what I wrote about them because
Oh, I
they were
mean,
hauntingly
literally in the
attractive.
2015 show, don't they do a very like straightforward joke where they're
Oh
like
yeah.
they
Big
come
comeback.
back after being hung over from going out with the crew and they're wearing each other's clothes and
Yeah.
Beaker's about to explain and Bunson's like, if it happens outside of
It
work, we
work.
don't have to
Don't
say
owe an
anything. It's
explanation.
like, okay, that's pretty on the fucking nose.
Yeah.
I,
There's so much before that. I would say because okay, so there's Muppets Tonight.
hmm,
There's one episode in particular where Beaker's like, "Hey, I'm gonna go on a Star Trek cruise," and Bunson's like, "Okay." And so, like, mind you, a cruise is a short term,
hmm.
not like he's not moving to Antarctica. He's just going on a short, maybe week-long cruise. The second he's gone, Bunsen starts going through a midlife crisis. Um, he's like freaking out. He is changing his identity. He starts dressing up like Johnny Fiamma. He hooks up with like Andy McDowell. He tells Kermit he feels like he's bleeding inside without Beaker. He's like, science has left me a sad and lonely man, and then he opens his closet and there's a sad and lonely man inside the closet. Like he is flipping out over losing Beaker. It's maybe been a day. It's been like a day. Um, it's so funny. And then like when Beaker comes back, he's like, yes. Um,
Bunsen Beaker against the world. It's what it
it's
is.
amazing. And then they have those music videos from like 2015, I think, also. They did like the flowers on the wall with Bunsen and Beaker, where Beaker has like sleeplessness, so he sets up like a fake date with Balloon Bunsen inside of his apartment. It's amazing.
There's okay, there was a moment I correct me if I'm wrong, it was in Letters to Santa where like Beaker
Yes.
some kind of like fake girlfriend or something and then like in like the big like heartwarming finale Bunsen like comes up to Beaker and his girlfriend and is like mind if I cut in
Cut
and
in.
the girlfriend thinks that she's like he's asking her for a dance and then he goes off and dances with Beaker. What are we what's the only other takeaway we're supposed to get from that? Are
It's
you
like, guys,
come on. At this
They're
point,
gay. I'm sorry, they're gay for each other.
like,
It's
you're
obvious.
annoying, which is a bigger crime. Like, come
yeah,
on.
just like get it together, man.
I
There's,
think it's like
yeah,
pretty obvious in any like Muppets lab sketches you watch throughout the entire run of the Muppet Show, Muppets Tonight, all of these things. There is no takeaway that I could come back to or surmise from that they're not like gay and in love. Are you kidding me?
like they wouldn't, Beaker would not be dealing with this if he did not love Bunsen so much, so
Literally.
much.
Even when
Like,
Bunsen got shot with the laser beam that mischaracterizes you the whole time they were filming Muppets Now. Um,
I also want to say, um, they didn't go into it at all in the Muppets. You know, they're the one where it's Kermit, the 9/11 one.
oh,
Fuck it, what's one? Very Merry Muppet Christmas
very,
Movie.
very Muppet
the
Christmas.
9/11 one, incredible.
It's
Yeah,
so
they have that
funny.
scene where Beaker is like fucking massive and muscular, and it's like the alternate reality where Beaker
Yeah.
is like fucking huge. I would say in a world, a bizarro world where Kermit the Frog fucks everything up and all the Muppets are different. That's like one of the only times I've seen Beaker not like with Bunsen. That is like the only time in a world where Kermit fucks everything up. Beaker is straight and fucking, or maybe he's not straight, but he's
I don't
fucking
think he's
he's
straight.
huge and muscular and kicking Kermit out of a go-go dancer club.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Scooter's even gayer in that
Yeah,
world.
Scooter is just like 1,000 times gayer, and the Kermit
Yeah.
fucks
He's
up
just
He's
beautifully.
unrepressed.
he's just unregulated, which like
Yeah.
is great.
He needs it. He needs a
Yeah.
regular schedule or else.
But
But
like
yeah,
there's so much about Bunsen and Beaker. And like there's clearly like the bones are there because it's prompted such just like a impassioned fan response. And I think we would be remiss, I think it's fair to say, we would be remiss talking about these two if we were
Yeah,
to mention our literal founding father, Weirdly Marty, who is
yeah.
king of Bunsen and Beaker Yowie. We love you and your weird science fan art.
Hmm.
If you're listening, we're very much enjoying your Jiminy Cricket phase, but we're always we're always here for Bunsen and Beaker, and we don't worry, we know your roots, we know where you come from.
Yeah.
Um, it's like, and like, if you're not familiar with Marty, first of all, why are you listening to the pod and not going to Marty's page right now at Weirdly
Yeah.
Marty? But second of all, there is some, and again, I think it ties in some of the other things we talked about. He's made some truly wonderful fan art. Not only is it like funny stuff, like funny like ship comics and stuff, and like funny scenarios between the two, and like fun designs for them, but there is something that like makes me cry every now and again when I have a little think about it, and it's like Beaker like post top surgery and Bunsen like marveling at his scars, marveling like isn't science wonderful? It's like fucking hell. There is such a beauty to be found in these like very slapstick heavy characters that really makes me love this community and the way that like we interact with and sort of put our interpretations onto these characters. Because first of all, where the fuck do you like where does the domino fall of like Dave Goelz putting on a guy that looks like a melon puppet and then like leading it to one of the most beautiful like fan comics that I've ever seen in my life? Like, how do we get here? And like, second of all, how can you not just like want something like that to continue to flourish? Because like,
Hmm.
yeah, it's all fun and games, and it's like, yeah, you can get a little kind of like smut with it if you're interested. I know it interests some people. Um, but it's like there's a real like beauty to be found in this kind of like sort of chain of thought in interpreting these characters because it's like there's like at their core, it's like, yes, there's like innuendo between the two, and there's moments where it's like, oh, what could that mean? But then, like, when you boil it down, it's like at the core of all of these like Muppet pairings that we've got, it's two people that like are clearly so very like fond of each other and like revel in each other's company. And like, again, is that not what we're all after? Is that not something that we can like see on our screens and feel comfort in as queer people? Is that not beautiful? Is that not worth like rolling around in our head like a ball until we kind of like sort of like warp it and distort it into our own version of things? But is are they not still ours?
Well, I mean, it's like my interpretation of 2011. It's like even if it's like not explicit about that, it's these characters, these themes, these Muppets have become so important to the lives of so many queer people, and I think it only makes sense for people to, you know, interpret these characters in a way that makes sense in their lives and is like representative of the things that they go through. I also want to say, real briefly, um, I typically am not a huge fan of a lot of the like Muppet shipping art that happens. Not that I'm against Muppet shipping. I typically am not a huge fan, but Marty is a pretty big exception for me. I do like the fucking Beaker trans photo and stuff. I don't know. I I'm not gonna make this whole thing about like Muppet shippers or like shipping within a fan community and all that. I just find a lot of the time the quote unquote shippers and fan communities make it more about like the ship and like their love for the ship than like the actual like media itself. And I don't fuck with that. But all is to say, I really like Marty's work.
Yeah.
Okay, so
And I
you know
think,
me and you know that I don't play about the Muppets. We're talking Muppet ships. I got several right off the bat. I think, Becca, you were so big-brained in talking about Moki and Red. Um, right off the bat, one that I feel like is slept on, Scooter and Walter. Um,
yeah.
in my
Yeah,
there's potential there. I see it blossoming. Um, I'm a traditionalist. I like a good Kermit and Fozzie as much as the next guy. Kermit and
I
Gonzo.
can't see it. I think Fozzie's too fucking straight.
In an ideal world, this is
An
in
ideal world.
you can't tell me that you didn't see anything in the whole moving right along sequence. Like, but Kermit,
Actually,
Guys
no,
on the
I changed
road.
my mind. It's not that Fozzie's too straight. I think Kermit's a little too straight. I think Fozzie is the one yearning for Kerm, and then Kermit's too into Piggy.
see, I think Kermit and Gonzo has a lot of potential there.
Yeah.
Fan of Kermit and Gonzo, not just because I'm Kermit and my boyfriend's Gonzo. No way is that influenced by that. But no, not at all, not at all. I kind of like the Electric Mayhem as a polycule, if we're being honest with ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah. Until uh Muppets Mayhem fucked it up, and now we have to lock Animal outside because that's technically like sun now. Um,
Yeah.
I'm
I
I,
think Animal needed
yeah,
to not be a part of that anyway.
A
So,
hundred
I
percent.
like the way
yeah.
Oz describes him as he's just like a kind of sex-hungry maniac. I like that we've kind of neutered Animal in recent years.
Yeah, woman, woman.
Yeah, we got him to.
I just think Electric Mayhem to me, I think there are queer members within it. Like, I think Janice is definitely queer. I would
Hmm.
say that they're less, I don't necessarily interpret them as like a queer polycule, though. I think they're just like, I've met a lot of polycules in Seattle where there's a lot of straight people in the polycule that just like to fuck, and they actually, they're not like necessarily queer.
What do
I
you
think they're
think?
just like a bunch of transients from San Francisco who want to just like bang. Like,
In my mind, Floyd is a non-binary lesbian. Um,
You got it.
it's I love Floyd and Janice too much for them to be straight. There has to be they have.
Yeah. There's got it. Well, I think Janice is trans.
yeah.
That's where I am. Yeah.
That's the one. That's the one where we all come to agreement on.
Yeah.
We're all just like, yeah.
But yep.
I'm right there with you. I will say, as we're discussing like the potential of queer Muppets, this kind of hypothetical of like whether or not a Muppet could be queer, there were also many times where Muppets were being written to be explicitly queer characters that were axed by executives, and it really
Hmm.
speaks to how queer representation is often axed at the top down versus like there are always like people wanting to do representation, but it comes to these corporations. And according to Bill Beretta, for the 2015 Muppets television show, Uncle Deadly is a very queer coded character. Uncle Deadly is the stylist for Miss Piggy. He's like a old gay uncle. They were going to make Deadly very outwardly gay, and they were going to make it so he was like an explicitly gay character, but then that was like nixed by ABC executives. And same deal with
Yeah.
Howard Tubman, but that Deadly is the one I know a little more about. But yeah, that's the
Deadly's in
one.
the show more.
Yeah.
Like Tubman, he kind of only has like a cameo in 2015, I think, but like Deadly is like I would argue one of the main characters of
Oh my God, they
2015.
revitalized his
He's
character. Like he's
like
become
he's
an
in it so
extremely
much.
popular Muppet now
Um,
because of that show.
but
Yeah.
they were like, hey, like the premise of this show is that we're exploring the personal lives of these Muppets off the stage, out off the screen, like we're letting them be adults in the real world. Um, and we think Uncle Deadly's gay, and like someone, and I actually know it wasn't ABC, it was Muppet Studios. I don't know like who or where in Muppet Studio axed it. Someone at Muppet Studio just axed the idea for Dudley to be gay. They said like, "Oh, we're not interested in exploring his personal life at the time," even though that was the whole premise of the ABC show was that they wanted to explore the Muppets' personal lives, that they wanted it to be not necessarily for children. They wanted it to be for adults. And they kind of got away with that with like the Bunsen and Beaker gay joke because it's like, yeah, you can't really interpret that any other way. Like they went home after karaoke and they hooked up, right? Like they're wearing each other's clothes. Um, but apparently that's really only as far as you can take it. We had like one or two other gay jokes like in the second episode, Josh Groban was there and Pepe was like, "Oh, he's so beautiful." And everyone in the room stops and looks at him. And he's like, "What? He's a handsome man and gender is fluid." And it's like,
Yeah.
Really, and
yeah, yeah,
I listened to it and I internalized.
yeah. And then in the first episode, obviously we have one of my favorite Muppet jokes, which is Fozzie. And
Generation.
he's like, when your online dating profile says you're a passionate bear looking for love, you get a lot of wrong responses. And he goes, "Not wrong, just wrong for me."
That's like one of my favorite Muppet jokes.
It's
So
so
fucking
funny.
fun.
I have to say it's probably one of the best jokes that has ever been made in like a
It's so
2010.
well written. Like,
Trying to sort of like lampoon like Modern Family and like The Office and like popular sitcoms.
hmm
That joke makes me laugh like more than the entirety of the US office and the UK
yeah,
and all of the other fucking random offices everywhere. That's genuinely like that's how I get people hooked on this show. I'm like,
yeah.
I want to know like the exact vibe of this show. This is a joke that happens in the pilot ep well, not the pilot,
Like
the
in like the first 5 minutes too.
yeah.
Like
Like
they're like, "Here you go."
this is one of
They're
the opening zingers that we use to get you hooked on the rest of the episode. And it's
yeah.
probably one of the best like gay jokes ever written.
Oh my
Like, because
God,
it's not
incredible.
offensive, but it's funny.
Yeah.
Like,
Even like
It's
Yeah,
they
it's
did
like
so
a
well.
very
and is like covering your tracks is still
Hmm.
fucking funny. Like the not
Yeah.
wrong for me, fucking hilarious. Like, come on.
Yeah.
like one, I think it's really funny to have like a Muppet be aware of like one, gay dynamics, and two, like how it would sound to be like, oh, I don't want that. Like I think it's really funny for a Muppet to have to deal with like modern shit like that. Second of all, though, um, I think like throwing it back to Deadly, like I just think this character has become so popular from 2015, and I think it's because they are such a gay character. It's been like really unique and fun to have a Muppet that is so much a queen and like talks the
Yeah.
way they do and like is that into like fashion and all that shit. Like it's really fun giving Piggy someone she can relate to and someone that like loves Piggy and adores her beyond like being attracted to her or like being annoyed by her or whatever. It's like it feels like Deadly is this like they are two queens that know each other very well. And like, yeah, I just think it's like Deadly not to just like categorize him as just like a gay best friend because I think that'd be doing him a disservice. But I think that they do show their relationship very well. And Deadly is obviously gay. They were trying to make him gay, and then they didn't. That wasn't
They
supposed to happen.
were.
It didn't happen, but he was supposed to be gay.
He literally does drag in the show. He does his like what is it, like Clueless
Yeah,
play and he plays all the parts.
yeah.
Yes.
Even
He
like
also did
still
yeah.
still recently, and like I'm trying to remember the exact event. I think it was a press event for the Rock and Roller Coaster or some
Mhm.
kind of, like merch release. They had like Matt Vogel up on stage like doing Deadly live, and there was some fucking like Disney stooge was like, "Oh, look at this new like Muppet Lounge fly or something," and Deadly was like, "Oh yes, excellent." And and like the Disney person was like, "Oh, maybe you could give it to Mrs. Deadly," and he was like, "No comment."
There is no Mrs. Deadly.
There's
If
no
there is a Mrs. Deadly, she's a trans woman.
what?
Okay, like
It's just it's a photograph of Deadly in clueless drag. Like, come on.
Yeah.
and then it's like pretty explicit that they said that. I'm pretty sure Bill Beretta as well, or maybe it was a writer who was involved with like Muppets Tonight and stuff. But people within Henson have stated that Howard Tubman, Big Gay Pig,
Is
is a
is
big
gay.
gay pig, and that he is
Yeah.
actually a gay character. And they made it very clear, like, yo, this Muppet is gay.
You could
Yeah.
criticize Howard Tubman being like the only like canonically gay rep in the Muppets. It's crumbs. I think there's definitely criticisms you can make about Howard Tubman's character, particularly his gag in Muppets Tonight. I think is like absolutely up for the like the critical chopping block. And even him as like gay rep, it's like, is this the best we can do?
Yeah, we could have gotten fucking
Like
Deadly, but
the
Tubman,
most
y'all
recent
picked
thing,
Tubman.
yeah,
Yeah.
like his most recent thing was just Muppets Now, and his whole bit was just he was really excited to meet RuPaul.
Which
He's
like,
like, oh my God, it's RuPaul.
come on, Howard.
It's like we have the opportunity for very like Deadly is a very layered character. They explored a lot of Deadly. You know, not saying Howard can't have depth to them, but it's like you have someone like Deadly, or you have like other characters like within the Henson plethora, like Boober, great example of a character to like with so much depth to like do queerness with. And then you have Tubman just being like, oh, I really want to meet RuPaul, the Slay sister. And you're like, God fucking damn it. Like,
God.
It's so
Howard
bad.
Tubman being
seems
like, oh,
like the Henson Company has really figured out how to represent queerness, but Muppet Studios is still like not,
Disney.
they still have not figured that shit out.
Disney.
it's
Yeah.
so
Disney.
to think of like they're like, oh, we want like a gay Muppet, and it's like, and the gay Muppet that they give us is like a cis white gay that uses AAVE indiscriminately.
Yeah.
Like, and it's like, could we do a little bit better than Howard Tubman? Not to even
Yeah.
all to say, I don't even hate Howard Tubman. I think particularly in recent years, he's evolved to be a little bit more of a funny character than just like the
Hmm.
90s fat person gag. They're like, oh, we'll move it away from just like, oh, we'll do a gag about overweight people. I will just do a gag about gay people instead. This is what the people want.
Yeah.
It's
It's like
better than what,
you're just
but I feel like we could just do without Howard for 5 to 10 minutes.
yeah. Your
Yeah.
your description of him as like a white gay person who uses AAVE is so accurate because I think it like it does kind of speak to how queer representation a lot of the times is not given the same reverence, and like a lot of the time queer representation is just throwing in like a stereotype pretty hard into a thing, where I think there's a lot of opportunity for Muppets who are not stereotypes. I'm like, I should be happy about representation when it happens, but god fucking damn.
It's like you don't even have to create a new Muppet that has to have a coming out journey. Just make a press release where you say the 7 or 8 Muppets that you guys think are gay, they are gay.
They've been gay the whole
They
time.
might
They've been
talk,
gay the whole time.
yeah, they were gay the whole time. You guys were right. They might talk about it, they might not. You're gonna have to consume our products to see.
Exactly. No,
And it's like
Bunsen and Beaker, Disney Plus exclusive wedding.
exactly
Yes.
gonna be streamed live, and then I'm gonna
Green
get
light.
licensed people try to kill me for watching live.
Yeah.
I literally think that like with Disney owning the Muppets nowadays, with the Muppets becoming so big culturally for queer people. I mean, it was happening in 2011 when they did the snout
Mhm.
out for the gays. Like Disney clearly seemed to recognize that in the past. Every piece of Pride merchandise that Disney makes kind of references Miss Piggy pretty heavy handedly. I
Yeah.
think Disney is aware, very clearly aware of how important the Muppets are within queerness. I think they have this opportunity to really like emphasize the Muppets and that queer connection. And it feels like they always are so close to getting there and then they don't. I honestly dead ass
Yeah.
think like not to encourage Disney to just like sell more product and like consume more sloppier, but like Disney, if they want to do pride shit, go full on with Miss Piggy, yo. Like clearly that's like your gayest character, and you know that. Like you fucking know that. You know the gay people love Piggy.
I was gonna say, like, I know they've already made some like Pride merch with Miss Piggy. Is
Yeah.
it that out of all of the Disney-owned characters that I kind of don't mind Miss Piggy being used for like rainbow capitalism purposes?
Yeah,
Is
me too,
it
honestly.
really mind that?
It's like because she's not gay, so like they're not like exploiting her, you know?
True,
Like
she's
she's
doing
just
it for
like a
own
gay
Yeah, she's
icon.
more of a Dolly Parton or a Madonna.
Exactly.
Like,
So it's like kind of fine because it kind of works with that like rainbow capitalism vibe where they're like, ooh, diva, pride, where it's like, yeah, that works. It's Miss Piggy. But if they tried doing it with like Bunsen and Beaker, I feel like it would fall flat.
Yeah,
oh,
like
100%.
parents would just get too outraged. But if it's just like a straight woman being like, yes, diva,
You're fabulous. It's like,
Yeah.
okay,
here's
Oasis.
verbatim what it says on a Miss Piggy Pride pin that I literally have on my thing. Fierce and
Yeah.
fearless. That should really offend me, shouldn't it?
Hmm.
Why did I want it so much that I bought one?
In,
I really want
like, I
one.
think it also works because Piggy, like, it's like a Dolly Parton. It's like their whole shtick has always been about this kind of like over the top, kind of like big character, but they've known that they're like representative for gay people. A lot of gay people love them and shit. That's like I think the 2011 snout out to the gays is like the perfect example where you can like literally look back and see an exact period where they were trying to market 2011 and they were like, okay, gay people like Miss Piggy, let's market to gay people. I think also culturally right now, Piggy is just
Piggy is
huge with
huge
queer
right
people.
now.
The Las Culturistas Award and everything, it's like fucking Piggy is massive with queer people.
Hmm.
Exactly. Like they just send Miss Piggy to do stuff, and it's like that will get attention. They had her host
Yeah.
the fucking Game Awards for some reason, and people tuned in for it.
Hello,
Yeah.
gamers!
Like what else do they have her do recently? They've had her on like podcasts and like,
Yeah,
uh,
that's where we got that really good clip, where they were like, "Oh, I think Kermit's the only frog for me." There's been a lot of men though.
like come on, when are they gonna crack
Come
the
on.
funny when they just have her just showing up and shit?
Yeah.
Of course, she was at the
Um,
Less Culturalistas like award festival thing, a podcast that
yeah.
mildly irritates me, but I was okay with Piggy being there. Um,
Yeah.
like, come on,
Um,
that
Sabrina Carpenter concert.
she showed up and got arrested at Sabrina's concert.
Yeah. And
Just
Bobo the bear looked like a bear.
yeah, dressed up like a big gay bear. It's like,
Hmm.
come on, just let Piggy do shit, make it a little bit,
Yeah.
and you will
Um,
generate revenue in some way, shape, or form.
Cole Escola, hope potentially writing that Miss Piggy movie.
I was gonna say
God, I hope.
you've got like people that like gay people love. You've got Cola Scola, you've
Yeah.
got Emma Stone and Jennifer Lawrence, like potentially
Mhm.
penning Piggy movie. And it's like, come on, there's bones there for you to do so much more with Piggy than you're like, no, you're just not taking advantage of it. You're
Yeah.
seeing the gold mine and you're like, where's all the copper?
Yeah, it's like very much Piggy is a huge character for queer people. Pride Month is happening right now. That's why we're doing this episode. And like, I don't know about y'all. I at my local Pride events here in Seattle, I'm seeing a lot of fucking Piggy, dude. I'm seeing a lot of Piggy t-shirts, pins, whatever. There's a lot of Piggy going on.
It's true. And because she's there for
Yeah.
us. When we need her most, she's there for us.
Hmm.
And also she got to have her problematic age gap like girlfriend Sabrina Carpenter show up in the 2026 episode. That was peak. I can't even
Yeah.
Yeah. We got some problematic Yuri out of the Muppets, and that's all I've
Dude.
wanted.
That was like the only spoiler I saw before the episode was like, guys, there's Yuri in the new Muppet show. And I was like, how?
You're like,
In
what?
what way?
Oh my goodness, I think we've covered a whirlwind of of topics in this episode, which just goes to show that like if you get gay people started on Muppets, we don't play around.
Gay people
Yeah.
love Muppets. Come on. The fact that we have so many different perspectives here that all at least like we all are coming from different places here. We've all had different lives, different like experiences growing up and through the people that we've like moved through the world with. But I think it's beautiful that all of us from such different backgrounds can relate to the representation and the joy that we feel in terms of Muppets in regard to our queerness. And I think that is such a beautiful thing that we've explored. I'm so happy that Becca was able to join us on the podcast.
Thank
Becca
you.
obviously wrote such an incredible article. But Becca, is there anything you're trying to plug besides the Muppet article? I mean,
Yeah.
please go read that, y'all. Please, it's incredible.
Yeah, I'm working on another one right now. I'm hoping to get it out before the end of Pride Month. It's about Howard Ashman. He was a gay lyricist who worked on probably one of your favorite Disney movies because he worked on some of the best ones. He also wrote for Sesame Street, fun fact, couple little songs here and there. Um, so I'm just kind of exploring, how his identity might have shaped some of those very, very well-known Disney lyrics. And we also talk Little Shop of Horrors because if I can talk about Little Shop of Horrors, I'm going to talk about Little Shop. Um, so,
Oh,
there
same
will
here.
be puppets. There will be puppets. There will be pride. There will be gay things. So, yeah.
It's been incredible having you
And
on.
if
That article, I mean, I'm so excited to read this new one coming out because, like, yeah, I think, we talk about mainly just Muppets on here, but there's so much incredible
Hmm.
stuff with all of Disney's fucking plethora of work that were
Oh, so
influenced by
much.
queer people. And I'm very excited to read about it.
Thank you.
Will and I, we talked about gay Muppets. We talked about trans allegories within the Muppets. We've talked about all of these things. But what we didn't necessarily do on this episode is get into some scathing, red hot freaking takes. And if you're a fan of the podcast, there's a poll up right now that ends on the 22nd. Get your freaking Muppet hot takes in, people.
that's
We're gonna
right, we are gonna be joined next episode by the incredible Chula Vista Puppet and Emo Miss Piggy as we go over some of ours and some of the community's spiciest Muppet takes. We are getting into some real, like, I've already seen some of the submissions, and there could be like fights after this. There could be wars happening, which God knows we need a little bit more violence in the Muppet community, don't we?
We do.
And
This
I'm
episode was all about joy with the Muppets, community, everything. Next episode's kind of ripping that right out of the water. We are going to debate, discuss, and get into all of your Muppet disagreements, hot takes, and silly discussions. We're very excited. And we're joined by, as Will said, the Strung Up Show, which they are a brand new podcast, brand new show that's amazing. Definitely check out Strung Up as well.
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. Thank you guys so much for listening. And once again, Becca, you have been a wonderful guest. Thank you so much for joining us
Thank you.
for this wonderful and very gay episode. And we will catch all your gay people on the flip side. By the way, if you're feeling like a drinking game, take a big swig anytime somebody said Belubius in this episode and see if you make it to the end. That one counts as well, by the way.
Yeah.
One shot equals one Volubius.
Now you
True.
have to go back and re-listen to the whole thing, but.
Yeah.
Oh, and don't forget, Tough Pigs is having a Pride fundraiser this month. I think they're having one more live, so go check out their Instagram, their website, see what they're doing. They're doing a lot of fun, great stuff for Pride. So, yeah.
I love
Yes,
those guys.
absolutely.
There's some great folks over at Tough Pig, so please go support them and support their fundraiser.
Thank you guys so much. Really appreciate y'all. Bye.